Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox Podcast number 72. I'm your host, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, joined here by our man at the controls, Johnny V.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every week we're running into this weird glitch that when we click live, it doesn't go live. And then I need to shut everything down, bring everything back up, and then do it, and then it goes for whatever reason. So they've got a new version coming out. I'm going to upgrade pretty soon, and hopefully that bypasses this little issue we're having.
I noticed you said every week we run into this little issue.
Yes, we as the
We
royal
as in
we.
who?
As the royal we.
Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to confirm who the we was on that.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Do you want to run it? I mean, I'm just saying.
I don't know if I could do it any worse.
Yeah, you couldn't do it any better. I know that.
So we are here and in Milwaukee. We're here momentarily. I know at least I am for a few more days, and Johnny V's actually going to be leaving the Milwaukee studios as well, as we're going to move over to just outside of Boston in 6 days.
Lista.
Something like that. Next Monday night, but we have a great show for you lined up tonight. We're going to have our Amateur Nationals champion, Gavin Rathbun. He's going to be joining us. Last week, we had a little bit of chaos going on here with having three-time world champ Nate Doss live in studio. So we reached out to Gavin. It wasn't going to work out last week, so we're going to make sure he gets some of that spotlight, some of that sweet action, that Smashbox action, and he's going to step inside a little bit later and talk about the AM Nationals experience that he had. Obviously, a very hotly contested battle with some amateurs, top amateurs. I cringe when I say that because they're playing at pro caliber levels.
They're
top amateurs for sure.
They're top amateurs.
They're also solid performing skilled
They would be performing
professionals.
pros. That's
Yes.
right.
So
Cashing
we'll
pros.
talk a little bit with him. Before that, we're going to, of course, welcome Dynamite from the show, or from Illinois to the show. And what I was already thinking, I was getting ahead of myself in my words, was we might be at our quota tonight of people from Illinois, too. I know we give them a hard time down there, being from Wisconsin and all, but so we're gonna have two people from Illinois in our first two guests.
That's assuming Dana shows up.
Yeah.
He's MIA.
I briefly spoke with him earlier in the day, and he said that he would definitely be on tonight, but I know he's got a lot of things in the works. I know he was out working on a course design today. There's going to be a meeting of sorts tomorrow night that he's going to be looking for some support on. But
Is he going to be at Vibram?
yes, he will be at the start of the Pro Tour for sure.
Wow. I haven't seen him forever.
It's been a while. It's been too long. He's looking for one of those Smashbox big hugs probably.
Mm-hmm.
And we will also then catch up with Yuli. He's on the road. Him and Katrina are traveling around, so we may get a little update out of both of them. Of course, Katrina, spoiler alert, Katrina Allen, your 2016 Beaver State Fling
Doesn't help.
champion in dramatic fashion. The women continue to give us these great battles week in and week out.
Just when you think one of them has it locked up, the other one charges back.
They do. So great story there. I did reach out to also a Beaver State Fling champion in Kenny the Champ Climo. And the same problem we ran into him with a few months ago when we had reached out, because he says he's excited to be on the show. However, Tuesday night is poker night, and I know that he's got the place to himself. He said for the first time possibly in 12 years, he is actually home alone as his wife and children are visiting some family in Virginia or West Virginia. He's home alone. So when I reached out today, I thought, well, maybe tonight would be a great night. However, it's still poker night, and he's hosting. So that makes perfect sense because he probably doesn't normally host poker night. So
it worked for DD that one night.
that's true.
Just get him on. We'll give him some poker advice, some poker tips.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
I'm looking forward. They usually do poker at Vibram, don't they?
Some form of cards get played there, yes. And I think it's of the poker fashion.
I'm looking forward to it because I don't know if we're going to be live every night, and I would.
We don't need you, so you're good.
I'm awesome. Have fun. I'm just going to be in the corner drinking, playing cards.
Yeah, well, that's how you
taking Ricky Wysocki's money.
It's a good call. That's about the only place anyone can do it these days.
Not on the course.
And even there, when he's been
good.
going to Vegas, he's taking things down. So Ken Climo also won in dramatic fashion again. We'll get to that, but he was another gentleman we had reached out tonight, but poker obligations were in the way. So good stuff. We'll talk obviously about the Beaver State Fling. We can't do too much previewing for the Pro Tour as there's been so much buildup and anticipation and people are excited about it. We'll probably lightly touch on that, but the Pro Tour is just around the corner and it's going to be perfectly timed because next week we'll be at Vibram, will be at Maple Hills course, and we'll be able to give you a live podcast right there next Tuesday night from the Maple Hill headquarters. So that'll be exciting as well, and we'll probably have some access to some of our sports top professionals. So it's going to be pretty exciting. Whole next week's just going to be crazy.
So at this point, 10 after 9.
Mm-hmm.
Should we start talking about events? Should we just bypass the Dynamite tonight?
If he's not chimed in, is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. I think he might have. He might be busy tonight.
That's a little odd because he did confirm that he'd be ready to go, and that he'd be on the show tonight.
Yeah.
So I'll admit that's a little bit strange. That
you know what? Things come up. Last minute things.
Another thing we could do is we could wait for him, and I could reach out to Gavin and see if he might be available, so that we could just swap things around.
That could be.
I'll send him a message at this moment. A little on the air production here.
So
fill some time for me, please.
The big news of the week, as we've all seen, like at this point, I think 700,000 times it's been seen. The Philo Albatross. The double eagle, as some people are calling it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it called the double albatross and a couple links. The Central Coast video that is blowing up the nation.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing it posted everywhere. I saw it on SB Nation. I saw it on CBS, I believe, or was it NBC?
Something like that. I think PGA Tour.
PGA had it.
Yep.
Obviously, it's been all over YouTube. This huge eagle albatross that Philo had thrown in. Now, from listening to some of the other pros talk about that hole's it's a tweener between a 4 and a 5 is what I'm understanding, but it's a really good 3.
Yeah, it's an amazing 3 for sure, and you'll see it in the video. I don't want to spoil too much, but you'll see Macbeth threes it. A few holes earlier because he's on the 5th card during that 3rd round. He takes literally just a drop in, just like this far away, just a drop in for a 3, which is of course impressive. And later in the round, we have a quick conversation as he's checking out the live scoring, and it's in my video, so I don't want to share it all yet. It's pretty funny what he says. But of course the albatross happens. Nobody heard it. We were just a few holes ahead, and we hadn't heard anything, mainly because of the nature of the hole. It's a blind shot.
Sure.
So really the only person, I guess, that knew about it was the actual cameraman that was sitting there at the pin. And I'll admit I haven't even seen the full clip. I saw it thrown and I saw it going in, but I didn't see any of the conversation with Philo as to what was said and what wasn't. But just pretty amazing stuff. And I remember us sitting on the tee, and somebody, whether it was Paul or whomever, had said, "Oh, it said 2 on that hole," and somebody else said, "Oh, that's got to be a scoring error."
Yeah,
like we would have heard it. That had to be a scoring error. Somebody accidentally put a 2 in there instead, and obviously not the case. So first and foremost, congrats to Philo.
Yeah,
it's an amazing shot, and then an equal amount of congrats because we wouldn't be talking about it right now if it weren't for Central Coast of capturing it.
Correct.
I mean, people would have said, "Oh, it's a great shot," and there would have been kind of the story about it. But had Central Coast not been in the right place at the right time with the multiple cameras that they had, it wouldn't have been captured, and it would still be a great story. It just wouldn't have been, immortalized. Is that the term? The way that it has been, had it not been caught on video. And I got to say, even when it comes around the corner and goes in at the very last second, somebody could almost argue that looks fake. Like if you showed me a video in a month and said, "Oh, so and so local pro was out there and they had an albatross and here's the video," I'd be like, it looks like they threw it from from off screen.
And if you look at the video, and obviously I'm not calling it fake by any means, everyone knows it happened. The way it comes in from the first shot, it looks high. Mm-hmm. Versus the second angle, it looks like it comes in a lot lower, but it's clearly a perspective issue.
Yep.
And then it just slams into the side of the basket and sticks. Like it's kind of amazing, and not just kind of, it's very amazing the fact that nobody knew, and you see them all walking up, and then suddenly like there's a small eruption in their crowd, and they're all high-fiving Philo and giving him some applause. But what an amazing shot! And do you like? I was thinking, this is one of the bigger shots that's happened in disc golf in the past 4 or 5, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a couple of aces on SportsCenter top 10, and we've seen, a couple. Actually, we've never really seen a big putt on ESPN.
Not on ESPN yet. There's obviously
Even,
been some that have been recorded and put up.
The Ricky putt from Masters Cup was
well,
a huge
yeah,
one.
or I think of, definitely one that comes to mind is the Kale Laviska putt over at the Minnesota Majestic.
Mm-hmm.
If that was happening today or it did happen this weekend or next weekend, again, there's a chance something like that could get onto SportsCenter, but
see,
a chance.
I'm going to go on a limb and say we won't see a putt on SportsCenter for 3 to 4, 5 years.
I think you're wrong, and B, we just saw one with Paul getting out of bed and throwing one in.
Difference. That's a trick shot.
I'm just saying.
That's not really.
I think
it's a putt, but just because for our sport it doesn't translate as well as a cool shot.
I understand that.
Someone can hit a 70 or 80 foot putt, as we've seen from Ricky, to win a tournament, and it doesn't get the same kind of highlight that a huge shot like that
I think
does.
I think it's how it's framed up. Honestly, will make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think and not to take away from the Masters Cup, it had a great gallery, but even if the cameras were in a different position, there's a huge gallery, it erupts, I think there would be a better chance. That's why I would not believe it will be 3 to 4 years.
I
think the right shot has to just be at the right angle, and it has to be for a national tour or some big victory that.
I don't think it has to be, because think outside the sport. Nobody knows the difference between a national tour and a C tier.
I understand that too,
and I think that it just doesn't quite translate as well. Even 100-foot putt,
but they
could, to win.
They could show a huge putt on some random secondary tour within golf. Could be shown.
Sure.
And that's what I'm saying. Is like that's a secondary tour versus like a B tier or C tier or national tour.
But there's a big difference in regular golf where you watch someone put in like a 70-foot putt, like a golf putt that rolls the undulating green. People see it or does something kind of a little crazy. For golf, our putts, unless it's like between like the V of a tree or something tricky with it, I don't think you're going to see a wide open 80, 100-foot putt or anything like that on SportsCenter in the next 3 to 4 years. Again, personal opinion, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think we'll see more aces. We'll see maybe some more trick shots. We'll see all sorts of cool stuff like that. I just don't think we're going to see that unless for some reason in the next 2 to 3 years, our sport is much bigger than it is now.
All right, well, Smashies, you can play along with this game that Johnny V and I like to do. This is where Johnny V and I have a mild disagreement about something or difference in opinion, and then we put it in a calendar. He usually puts it in a calendar.
I do.
And then we check up on it when that calendar rolls back around. Sometimes he gets the announcement that it's a few days out or that it's exactly that 1 year from that point. So if you'd like to put it in your calendar and play along with this game, we can see if it's a full 3 to 4 where you
someone send me a message
years.
So I remember. I don't have my calendar open right now, and I'm going to put it in my calendar for I'll put 3 years with like a 1 year reminder.
Okay, perfect.
And then we'll see.
That would be best.
In 3 years.
Do 3 years with a
yearly reminder.
And
then we can see
if it's happened.
If a putt, or I'll even say like a chip in, like a 100-footer.
I did want to clarify
something close where it would be, most people would look at it like, okay, that's close enough. It's not a long approach or a drive like we saw from Philo. That it is a jump putt or something along those lines. You and I can agree probably on the definition of a putt when we see
that's
it.
what I was just going to say. There should be roughly an approximate distance that we agree on, and is that, again, these guys putt from from so far.
100 to 120 feet.
I was just going to say 125.
Yeah, something like 125 and in is, I consider, for a lot of these guys, they're going at it. It's a putt,
and we do see that, clearly people line up differently. If you're throwing truly an approach,
correct,
that you throw in versus a long putt that you were genuinely putting. But
yeah,
all right,
I'm good with that.
All right, guys. Well, so put it on your calendars. I think we will. I don't know if I could say for sure within 1 year, but for sure within 3 to 4 years. Before that 3-year mark.
All right.
Before 2019, we'll see it. And I hope, just to really rub it in, I hope I'm the one that recorded it. Whatever it is.
I was going to say, I hope you were the one that gets the putt. But
that's not happening.
Here's a good question.
Oh, jeez.
The putt has to be in a tournament. Not like we just saw
No,
we
you
just saw
didn't-
Simon.
You didn't say that, but okay.
But because we just saw Simon put in like 37 30-footers within a minute.
Yep.
Now, if something like that, I consider that more of like a trick shot. Like it's a grouping, it's a kind of a thing that he does. Obviously, I'm talking in a tournament setting.
Okay.
So just to clarify,
I'm still good with that.
Okay,
Sure.
we're good.
I mean, Nate Doss put in that putt from 400 feet, so to kick this thing. This whole thing up.
If Simon throws a putter and gets a big ace, does that count?
Yes, it does. All right. Well, we switched it up on the fly. We've got great people like our AM Nationals champion, Gavin Rathbun. He said that he can switch up his schedule. That's what happens when you're a young, vibrant, studly
18-year-old guy.
Yeah, you can just switch things up crazy on a Tuesday night at 9:30 at night. So he's going to simmer down.
Whoa.
He's going to join us here and help us out. And then Dana may or may not join us in a little while. So
it looks like Dana's a no-go for tonight. So we're gonna stick here.
we're gonna move things around. And so with that, we're gonna welcome to the show again our AM Nationals champion Gavin Rathbun. Gavin, how you doing, buddy?
Not too bad. Pretty tired. Been playing all day.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the rough life. Do you have like a regular full-time job or anything, or are you kind of just a golfing kid right now? Summer.
I worked at a gas station actually until about a week ago.
Until you went AM Nationals.
Yeah, then you're
on
like, I don't need this.
You're like, I got funny money like you wouldn't believe. Now, so first and foremost, of course, congratulations. Three-way playoff against two of the other top amateurs in our sport, both being Midwestern guys, one from Illinois, one from Wisconsin. Walk us through your experience. Have you been at AM Nationals before? And we'll just walk us through your experience a little bit.
No, I've never been to amateur nationals. I was gonna go last year, but some things happened and I couldn't make it. This year, I went in. I practiced a lot before it. Knew I had a little bit of an advantage. I throw pretty far.
Like how far? Internet far or real far?
I guess you'd have to see me throw. I don't.
No,
I'm thinking it's real far.
I'm guessing it is like 500 feet far.
Yeah, I can throw a little bit over 500.
Okay. So that's definitely an advantage on a course that requires not only accuracy, but distance is a huge advantage out there, assuming you keep it in the fairways.
Yeah, I missed the fairways quite a bit of time.
So you're a Midwestern guy. You're from Illinois, not far of a travel. Did you go with other people? Did you have that awkwardness? Did you travel with Isaac, who you laid the beat down on? What happened?
No, but
Okay.
He was in our hotel room.
Okay.
Night, so I traveled with Ian and Ryan Burchett.
Okay. So a little bit of trash talking maybe back and forth with Isaac. How did it go throughout the weekend with the two of you, especially sharing a space?
There was a lot of trash talk, definitely. We got into a couple actual arguments.
Really? Over what?
Golf related or just like
Girls?
Yeah, I mean,
sports or
the disc golf crap talk got a little bit too serious in the hotel room.
Okay. Was it based on skills or wins or local territory? What was that based on?
It was based on the third round at AmNats going into it.
Okay.
good.
And so Isaac McDonald, for those who don't recall, he had finished second to Anthony Barella at AM Worlds just a few months ago, a year ago almost now. What does this mean for you moving forward? I guess, it kind of answers the question as to where Isaac is right now. But for you moving forward in your career, what else are you playing this year? Pro and AM, that kind of stuff. I'm sure you're getting a lot of those questions.
For the rest of the year, I have a little bit of shoulder issues right now.
Okay.
So I haven't been playing quite as much, but I am playing Mad City this upcoming week. And then pretty much my focus goes to AM Worlds, and I will play pro the rest of the year after that.
And so Mad City this upcoming weekend in Wisconsin. So I may or may not run into you over there. Are there I mean, there's got to be expectations, but is there any pressure now that you've won one of the largest possible amateur events and one of the most significant amateur events and toughest to win? Is there any additional pressure put on you now for everything else that you're going to play?
I wouldn't quite say pressure, but I mean, I definitely want to play good all the rest of the year. No more of the bad rounds. Keep my head in the game, and I definitely want to have a great performance at Worlds.
Has there been anyone that's won Am Nats followed up by Am Worlds?
Barella did last year.
Did Barella did?
Anthony
Okay.
Barella,
I didn't know if he won Am Nats.
Yeah, he
Obviously, I
did.
knew he won Worlds. All right.
And
Perfect.
didn't McDonald finish second to him there last year at Amnats?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we're gonna have we're gonna have Isaac on right after you.
No, I'm
just
just
follow up second.
No, just kidding.
we like Isaac. Good kid.
No, of course. I mean, obviously, he's proving that he's right there, and he's just come up just a bit short. Do you see a rivalry continuing when you guys had Am Worlds this year?
Of course, that's what I hope happens. Illinois needs to bring it back.
All right. Well, Illinois.
They've had it. Like they have it like every 3 years.
No,
it seems like.
Well, no, they've had more than that. They've had Kenny Glassman recently.
Mhm.
They've had. Sorry, wow, Kenny Glassman in 2011 or 2010 in Ohio. 2000. No, in New York. Kenny won in New York. I'm sorry. Wow, let me get my head on straight. And there were two others that were
Wow.
sponsored by DD. Who am I thinking of? Steven Jacobs. Gosh,
Steven
wow.
Jacobs.
Yeah, Steven Jacobs. And who was the third that just won Am Worlds?
We're all
Someone.
Yeah.
Okay.
We-
Anyway, I know.
The,
I know
the,
all
bo-
three
the
names.
board will tell us for sure.
I'm drawing a blank at the moment. But anyway, there's plenty of Am Worlds baggers coming out of Illinois. I don't think we have to worry about a shortage of that.
No.
Um,
Wiggins? Someone's.
no,
I know he's
no.
not from Illinois. That's what
He's
the thing
from
Brett
North Carolina.
Comencioli is saying. So.
Steve, see, they're chiming in. Steve, nice Tim. Anyway, so what else do you plan on playing? You just mentioned a couple big events, but are you playing every weekend? Are you playing leagues? Like, what's your schedule like for playing? Do you plan on working at all this year, or are you just focusing on golf at the moment? Like all of those things.
After, based on work, after Worlds, I'm going to get a full-time job, Monday through Friday job to save money for next year.
Okay.
I plan on touring next year for the most of the year.
Okay.
And other events, Ledgestone, Homey, Sinisippi in Illinois. That's pretty much it. I only play a couple rounds a week now because my shoulder it's not really working with me.
So what? I have to ask, and I apologize. I don't actually know this. Do you rely on forehands or overhands or just a shoulder thing in general because you throw so far or hard, or what's the issue with the shoulder?
My tendon, it's pulling, and my socket is loosening from my shoulder,
Eesh.
creating huge knots in my shoulder blade.
Wow. And is that reversible? Is that something that you can just kind of preventively maintain? What's kind of it sounds like you've obviously had it looked at. What exactly is that going to mean for you?
The doctors recommended surgery, so that might be this winter if I decide to do it, but for now it's just physical therapy.
Wow. Okay. And that's, is that somewhat common? I mean, you're only 18. Is that common that, somebody would have that already, or is that from you playing so much, or what's that come from?
I think it's I just developed a strong flick this year,
Okay.
and I have to be doing something wrong with it because ever since then my shoulder's been killing me.
I wonder if that's why Jeff Bennett always goes with his shoulder up here, because then he throws a forehand and then he brings his shoulder
Stretch
away. Like,
I don't know.
I'm just making that up. And yes, Spencer Wilkin. Thank you guys. I don't believe I just completely drew a mind blank for a moment. So Spencer Wilkin, the other guy from Illinois that had won.
Correct.
So, 3 or so Am Worlds champs in like 4 years.
Yeah, the last 5 years.
With Isaac taking second. So it sounds like you're going to be pretty busy. You're already sponsored by Innova. Is that correct? What's that relationship been like for you? And how does someone, a lot of people always say, well, I want to get sponsored. I want to get sponsored. How does someone like yourself who's playing in the amateur ranks, how do you get sponsored already?
I'm guessing it's because I'm young. I've played all the big events, all the big amateur events. what I mean, in 2014, me and Ian Burchett won 19 and under world doubles.
Okay. Yep.
And shortly after that, I got sponsored by Discraft.
Okay.
And a year later, I sent Jonathan Poole a message asking him what I would have to do to be sponsored, and I ended up switching to them.
Okay. All right. Well, just like that. I mean, that's becoming a newer thing. 10 years ago, most 18-year-olds or 17-year-olds didn't have the luxury of shopping around or doing anything like
Correct.
that to switching things up. And that's proving where the game is going. We've got more vendors out there, more manufacturers out there, and everybody wants to, especially with a young gun, wants to be able to take a little bit of a chance and hope that,
Hope you fall into the next Macbeth.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's pretty exciting for you. What was it like as you guys were? I'm going to back to the event a little bit. There was actually a three-way playoff going into that resulted at the end of 3 rounds. You had a three-way playoff, if I'm correct, and you had already been averaging like 1,005 rated golf at that point. But what was that like going into that playoff? Kind of break down maybe even the last hole or two that got it to being into the playoff.
I remember on hole 15, I think I had the lead by 1 going into 15. I shanked probably my worst drive of the whole entire tournament. Probably only made 50 feet off the pad on the par 4. Through pretty far upshot for where I was, took my 4, and then hole 16, I put it about 15 feet out and had a dead center spit right back out, and that was for the lead.
Okay.
Once again, after Isaac and Adam both tied me up on
15?
15.
Yeah, the previous hole, yep.
Yep, and then and Isaac actually missed a 10-foot putt on the same hole.
Wow.
On 16. And Adam took the birdie to tie me up, and Isaac was 1 back. And then hole 17, I threw the farthest drive, had a pretty easy upshot, and just let it go high into headwind, and had a inside the circle, actually, just under tree branches, and missed the putt. Isaac took a pretty amazing 3. His drive was not the best. And so he tied it up with me and Adam, because Adam also forward that hole. And then 18, they both shanked right a little bit, and I was the only one that really had a chance to make a putt from about 60 feet out, and I just missed.
Okay. So definitely a hard-fought battle, and then all 3 of you moved into the playoff on hole 1, where I think, again, you had the best drive in the group. How did everyone else tee shot look?
Isaac released his with quite a bit of ante and pretty early. His drive ended up in a spot he couldn't really make it. And Adam, I thought they both threw before me, and Adam shot. The crowd started wooing and wowing, and then I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to have to put it close. And then the crowd started awing because it got a cut roll and rolled about 50 feet long.
Okay.
And I chose to forehand while they both backhanded, and I put it about 12 feet, give or take.
Okay. And what hole? Describe the hole for everyone that hasn't played there and know which hole you're talking about.
Big downhill, left to right hole. The basket's pretty far right. It's a blind shot. It's really hard to get to, actually, especially playing in wind.
And is that the hole that they also? I don't know if they still do this, but do they still do speed golf up and down that hill or no?
Speed golf.
Yeah. Okay. See, I'm dating myself here. Back at Am Nationals, and somebody may have died. I don't know, but at Am Nationals, I know that they offered some form of speed golf where I don't remember if it was just down to 1 hole and back, or I thought you played 3 holes, and I haven't been there for it, but I've heard enough about it, where you play a hole. I think you have to play and then 1 or 2 holes back up, and you have to do this little loop. And
like as many times as you can.
No, you do it once and it's timed.
Oh, all right.
And I don't know if it's 2 or 3 minutes or whatever it's done in, or maybe it's just that hole. I don't recall, but I know it's almost killed some people because of
Probably hole 1 and 2, having to go down hole 1 and then all the way back up
Yeah.
hole 2.
That sounds about right. I thought there was maybe 3 holes, but yeah, if it's just 1 and 2, that might make sense as well. I remember a good friend, hole 5 guy. I think he said he had a beverage or two and then attempted it, and it didn't
work out for him.
No, but studs like Pat Blake went out and may have even won it the year that Pat Blake was there on the speed golf. So, okay, so Tafe's chiming in on the board, says no speed golf anymore. Adam Olson was the last winner, down 1, back to 18. So I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, down hole 1 and then back up on hole 18.
So you walk up to a 12-foot putt. So I'm assuming the other guys have missed at this point. Adam with his 50-footer. You walk up to a 12-foot putt. How nervous were you? Like at this point, have you run into anything like this in your career so far?
No. Not even close. Never really been nervous for a 12-foot putt before this. That's for sure.
And you, what was going through your head? Where you think? Did you walk up positive, like, all right, I'm going to drop this, I'm going to nail this, going to take the win, I'm going to walk away, or as some people say, were there negative thoughts kind of creeping in, like, oh God, don't miss this, don't airball it, whatever you do?
I'd say there wasn't negative thoughts once I actually walked up to the putt.
Okay.
Like, for anyone that knows me, they know that I like to miss short putts. If you've ever watched the Final 9 at Worlds, that wasn't good. So a lot of people give me crap for that. And before the putt, I was thinking, like, wow, what if I miss this?
Well, and the playoff continues.
Yeah, the playoff continues, and then you might end up with a small reputation.
And then how solid of a putt was it? That's always the question, because I saw a putt this weekend that forced a playoff, and it wasn't solid, and I know nerves were on the mind. So how solid was your putt?
I mean, it was dead center. It was just about a little high.
Okay, just a bit high. But
So just enough, like when you let it go, you think, oh God, please go in. Don't.
No, I think I was pretty confident.
Okay.
Okay, well, good. And now, describe a little bit about the event. Discraft has been a great supporter of us here on Smashbox. This is clearly one of the many events that they're supporting in a large capacity, but just describe about the experience, what it's like to be at this event, how you're treated, some of the things that they do for you. How was that experience for you, besides just the excitement of winning?
It's amazing. They treat you like top-level professionals. Discraft couldn't have done a better job, honestly.
Okay.
Talk about some of the, for people that haven't been there this particular year, I think I saw some images on Facebook. What was included in the players pack? I thought I saw some customized stuff.
My face buzz wasn't here, but you get that every year.
Okay.
Your face buzz? Explain that.
You get your face on a buzz.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So
And
they
then-
take your picture at the beginning of the week, right when you're checking in or something, and then by the end of the week they're handing you, or a day or two later, they're handing you your own disc with your own face on it. Are you gonna make copies and send it out for Christmas gifts this year?
I mean, that's a good idea.
You're welcome.
That's fine.
All right, what else did you get?
A few discs. I don't throw Discraft discs. I gave them to my mom.
Sure. Okay.
Amnats, umbrella, and another pullover.
Nice. And
But
then
the best part of the whole entire player pack was the mini buzz.
yeah, I saw those.
Yeah, those are, and that's kind of what I was getting at. Those looked, if anyone has one and wants to give me one, those looked really cool.
I want one too.
Like they're about the size of your hand, it looked like, and they can be used as a mini, and it looks just like a original first run buzz. Am I correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's certainly something awesome where they, kind of dial it back to bring out something a little retro or really unique or cool that, you couldn't just get at any given event. So that's pretty cool to see. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't they take really good care of people when it comes to things like meals and snacks and hydration and all that stuff as well?
Yeah, there's water bottles all over the course. You'll never run out of water. There's food once you get there, lunch every single day. Snacks on the same holes that there's water. There's tents all over, protect you from the heat. Couldn't have done better.
Awesome. Well,
Great.
that's good to hear. And we've come to, I think everyone that talks about going to big tournaments, whether they're amateur or professional, this is usually on someone's bucket list. And this event came out after we had both turned professional. So it was nothing
We
that
can't
we
go
could
back?
to. Yeah, no, sadly.
I mean, they could look at our ratings. We could go back.
Yeah, we didn't just get whooped. But
Yeah.
it's definitely been one of those events that everybody talks about. Clearly, it's one that you want to go out and win. I know a lot of times if you're not sponsored, usually this opens the doors for some sponsorship. You were already a little bit ahead of that curve, but it at least opens the doors because when you're winning this event, you're doing a lot of things right. So no plans in your case to go back and try and defend any titles or anything like that next
Hopefully
year.
not. If I have a bad performance at Am Worlds, there might be another shot.
And maybe we should have led with this a little bit earlier, but background on how you got into golf and how long you've been playing, those kinds of things.
I've been playing since the very beginning of my freshman year, so it's a little over 4 years now. I got into it because Eagle Ridge Disc Golf Course in Oswego, Illinois, is right next to my house, right next to my friend Ian's house, and we were walking one day and just randomly came across a Frisbee. Didn't even know the course was there, and we've been on that path hundreds and hundreds of times. Brought it back to his house and started throwing it in his front yard.
And that's where it all began. Pretty awesome.
Yeah. I wish I was that young and had a course that close.
Yeah.
I mean, both right now. I wish I was that young, and I wish I had a course that close to my house.
So anything you'd like to, before we cut you loose and let you go, anything else you'd like to say, people you'd like to thank, or shout-outs, or anything you'd like to do to let everyone know about what you got going on?
Of course, thank you, Anova, and this Baron out of Michigan, Jacob Stahl. He's been helping me a lot this year.
Awesome.
And of course, my mom. She supports everything I do. I even got her to start playing. She's playing Ledgestone this year.
Awesome. That's very cool.
What division is she playing? Don't mess it up.
Maybe rec women?
There you go.
Okay, good enough.
There you
That's
go.
a safe call.
There you go. As long as you don't put her in an age-protected division she doesn't belong in. That's what
She
we're
wants
going
to play
for.
Advanced Masters at World 2017. It's going to be pretty close to our house.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah.
great.
That's also would be cool. What would it be like having your mom, especially at an Am Worlds in that case? By that time, you're for sure going to be playing pro. What would that be like for you to, 2 years from now to go, or a year and a half from now, if even, to head a few hours west and then maybe caddy or at least walk along and support your mom while she's playing in Am Worlds? What would that be like for you?
It's going to be awesome because I am going to caddy for
There
her,
you
no
go.
doubt.
Awesome. That's very cool. All right, Gavin. Well, we're going to let you go. We appreciate you joining us and sharing a little bit of your story and your experience. Clearly, you're on the road to a solid professional career, especially assuming your shoulder can hold up. You're rated 972 right now, and you averaged over 1,000 golf while you're at the event, so your rating's likely going to be going up. Do you have a goal in mind by, say, the end of the year where you want to be rated?
At first it was 990, but the first couple events I played this year were not so good. So now it's moved to about 980.
Okay, well, you're just literally a stroke or so away from that per round, sitting at your 972. So it seems pretty likely and obtainable for you, or attainable.
I think both. We can use obtainable or
and
attainable. I think you can use that.
We're we do some real linguistics here on the show. We usually just work through them live.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, Gavin, thank you for joining us. We
Thank
appreciate your time. We appreciate your demeanor, and we wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, we'll see you at Am Worlds.
Yep.
We'll see
absolutely.
you here.
I'll see you this weekend, Harry.
All right, we'll see you then. Take care.
Yep. Bye.
Have a good night. And again, we got a lot of good golf in the Midwest. There's no doubt about that. I know I just stumbled through.
A lot of good golfers, too.
Yeah, that's where I was going. We've seen 3 Am Worlds champions in the last 5 or so years come from Illinois specifically. The likes of Dynamite are there, but a lot of good golf in the Midwest, which breeds a lot of good disc golfers and really a hotbed for playing. And then, as he just mentioned, Am Worlds, I believe, is going to the Quad Cities, is what I think his reference was.
Yes, I believe the DJs, Quad Cities DJs.
Quad City DJ. Come and ride that train. All right. So, yeah, that's what we have going on. So awesome to see. Again, congrats to Gavin. And I don't think it'll be long before we're probably welcoming Isaac McDonald to the show for his own reasons as well. Not for taking second, but
not.
for winning some big events himself. He's clearly got the skill sets.
Yep.
The one question I forgot to ask him is if he taunted him on the last hole and said anything.
He seems
That
like
might
too nice of a guy to
he
do
probably is.
Now,
I'm not
maybe-
saying I would.
that. Now, maybe afterwards, give him a little elbow.
Nudge,
but
nudge.
but-
Yeah, but a lot of great kids, a lot of young, talented kids. And as he mentioned, we've got sponsors that are already, going after them, trying to secure them, as you said. That's the world we're living in these days, which is great to see. We're seeing so many new players
Well, and we
have
have
opportunities to do
and
these big
like you were
things.
saying, we have so many disc manufacturers now. There's no shortage. If they want, if they throw a particular manufacturer and want that manufacturer, and they say no, there are 5 other solid manufacturers that they could probably go to. And if they're a good, solid, up and coming young kid, they're gonna find a spot somewhere.
Yeah, their chances have increased drastically over the last few years.
Yeah.
In terms of where they can go and what they can get, whom they can get support from.
Yep.
So thanks again to Gavin. I did have Yuli reach out to us. He said that if he needed to step in a little earlier, as opposed to waiting, I guess we're pretty much close to the time we were talking about anyway. So
Yep.
I think if we can, we're going to try and dial up Yuli here in a few minutes and
Tell them to get online.
talk about his picks a little bit. He's also probably traveling with this weekend's Beaver State Fling champion.
Don't ruin it for me.
Oh, sorry. You didn't see the coverage yet.
I have not.
Oh. Check my Facebook non-live account, and you'll see.
I did actually see the winning putt for the women.
Yes. Amazing.
Yeah, it's what I didn't know the situation going into that. All I know is that when she hit that putt, she seemed really excited. So I clearly thought that was the winning putt, and it was a good solid 40 feet.
Yeah, I'd have to watch it again. I know I have it myself on film, and I know I talked to her in an interview. I don't know if it was 45 or 50-ish, but somewhere in that neighborhood. It was a long putt. She definitely deserved the win after getting that hole in one less stroke than her competitor.
Yep. Good way to save that. Non-spoilery.
Exactly. You guys have me all concerned about my spoiling.
Do we want to save? We've got an announcement this week.
Oh,
Do we want to save that?
Let's tease it out a few more minutes. Yeah, we'll save it.
Yeah, we've got a big announcement this week.
We should have told people that we were going to make a big announcement. We just kind of did.
No, because you know why?
Because our loyal,
I want it to
dedicated
go to our
fans are gonna
loyal
hear it
fans
first.
to hear
There
it
you
first.
go.
I don't want someone to come
That's a
on and
good
thinking
cover-up.
maybe they're going to give stuff away today. We're not.
No.
Or anything like that. But no, we're just we're going to make a big announcement tonight, a big announcement for us, and the announcement is going to come later.
So not now.
We could do it now.
No, we'll wait.
We'll wait.
Waiting on Uliberry, Paul, that is, to see if he's going to be joining us. We can talk a little bit about the picks for this week. We can also recap. Nate Doss made some picks last week while he was in the show.
He did.
We'll see how he shook out with everyone else amongst our little game. What's kind of scary is that I peaked. And
we knew that years ago. Years ago. Years and years ago.
I peaked at the scores.
Oh, you peaked. Like not
peak.
like you
No,
like you plateaued.
Yes, I peaked at the scores. And I'm not as happy as I usually am.
You shouldn't be.
Not a fan. Not a fan of that. Yeah. All right. So I can only stall so much here, Yuli. Are you online? You ready to go? Maybe he's not ready to go.
I'm gonna dial him up anyway.
There you go.
If he'll either answer or he won't. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about Beaver State.
Sure.
So for those of you that don't want to know, spoilers. This is where we cover what happened in the event. Ricky Wysocki, killing it, like just crushing.
He did well.
Yeah.
No,
I watched some of the Central Coast coverage. His putt is looking phenomenal. Like Paul looks a little awkward and it's just because he's doing his straddle putt. We're not used to seeing it do that. Ricky's putt looks unstoppable right now. Like he's dialed in. He's got that awesome kind of straddle almost coming from, between his legs and just straight as an arrow.
The one concern that I have with it, besides that it looks dead perfect every time, sometimes it comes in a little hot.
Yes.
And I think both, I'll speak for Ricky here. I think he throws a putt dead center into the heart of the chains at the perfect height, and I still think he has a slight pause every time.
Yeah.
Because I think he's worried it's going to come right back out at him because he's so dead center, whether it's the pole or the chain or whatever. There's almost, I know for me, I've learned as filming him, there's a slight pause. And I know it sounds crazy, but he does come in a little stiffer, a little more firm in terms of power than most. And I always think that could come back out. And you see him always kind of look at the basket, even though he knows it's center. And I hate to say that's a concern, but it's something that I do think about. And,
I think
it's clearly it's working for him. So it's not a criticism.
And it's
just
something
something I do think about.
It's something he would need to be concerned about depending on the baskets they're playing. If they're playing older baskets, like I don't know what they have at Hartford this weekend where he's playing, but if you walk up to some Mach 3s, there's a good chance that those are going to hit pole and come back. A higher chance than they are on a Mach 5 or a Mach X. So, but if you're him, you can't think about that. You just play your putt. You put it in the heart, and you're done. And if it comes back, it comes back. That's the risk you run. It's like watching somebody get upset who's a known hyzer putter, and the ones that will cut through the chains. There was a local guy here that I played with for many years. He always did a nice big hyzer putt, and he would get so upset when he'd spit him through the chains. And all I sat there was like, and shook my head, thinking like, you're going to get one around. I feel like the way you putt, so you can't be upset even if you hit it right where you want to hit it. Just the way it comes in and down and slices. Ricky's got to know that if he's throwing it hard, if he's off a hair, then he's going to either be 25 feet past the basket, or he's going to, hit and roll. You run that risk of hitting funny on the basket and getting up and rolling with that much speed. But right now, he's dialed in.
And let me be perfectly clear. Again, this is no criticism of him or his putt whatsoever. It's just a thought that I have because that would be the only thing anybody could possibly conceivably be nitpicky about at this point.
Sure.
Because you're right. He is so dialed in. His putting, his forehands, his backhands, he's got it all together. He clearly has the mind game for it. I know that's been challenged and criticized or talked about quite a bit. He feels like the monkey's off his back. He's also on a roll. I mean, when you talk about these recent national tours, he had the Kansas City Wide Open. He, had no problems there, and he just continues to move forward. Paul got him at the event overseas at the World Tour. However, he jumped right back into it, and he's continued his roll right here. So
I mean, no one is going to win every event. So the fact that if Ricky loses, even to Paul, I think at this point he knows, I had an off week. It wasn't, I choked, I fell apart. He was right there. It's just, I'm going to lose. Everyone has to know they're going to lose to Paul at some point. And it's a matter of taking advantage of when Paul plays poorly.
Yeah,
because he has been a little bit more frequently this year.
He has, and I had a brief conversation with him, a couple of them this weekend, but one in particular that he talked about is he doesn't feel that his physical injury is as nagging or as pertinent as really him just getting his mind right.
Sure.
He feels like mentally he's just not fully there. He's not fully committed to everything that he was, say, last year, and that's obviously it's starting to show a little bit. Mm-hmm. I know this last event he had made mention that he got a disturbing phone call that his grandfather had gone to the hospital. I believe is what he said, that his grandfather had gone to the hospital, and I know that was on his mind. He went out and shot a sub 1,000 rated round.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say directly what that's all attributed to, but for him to shoot a sub 1,000 rated round is, of course, very out of the ordinary. Some stat guy could go find out when that last happened. So, he's got a few things mentally that he just has to put all together. I watched him straddle putt this weekend, and I'm going to tell you, that's not a problem. That is no problem whatsoever.
I agreed because clearly he took third. It looks awkward. And granted, it's because...
It shouldn't, because it's a thing of beauty in person still.
I watched it, and I'll say this. They just don't look as pretty as his normal putts. And because it seems like a lot of them are hitting a little bit more left. And maybe that's by design, the way his putt is. I'm not doubting him by any means because he's still one of the best players in the world. I would love to ask him, and maybe you can. Does he feel at this exact moment that he's still the best player in the world? Or does he think that Ricky is right there with him? I mean, clearly he's probably going to say, I feel like I'm the best. Everybody should. We had Nate Doss here last week, and he was here saying, I feel every week I'm going to beat Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they have to think.
Of course they do. And very few of them have the skill sets and
Correct.
can. Nate being, of course, one of them. Ricky being another one.
Yep.
Will Schuster being another one. I think there's a lot of guys that have these skill sets. It's a matter of who's going to go out and execute them on that given weekend. And I'm very confident that if Paul was sitting right here, right now, and we said, do you feel like you're still the best player? He would say yes. And not to be cocky about it, but he would say yes, that he is. He just simply needs to, get his mind right when he goes out and throws.
Sure.
Because like I said, his putting wasn't really affected at all in terms of the effectiveness. And when I actually talked to him, because I didn't see any of Friday's rounds where he played poorly by his standards, and I asked him on Saturday, so what was it? And he said it was in terms of the physical golf, besides what was going on in his head, he said it was his drives. His drives were horrendous.
I watched a couple shots that he throws that the disc just flips over. And I don't know if it was a poor disc selection, some wind that I didn't notice on the round, but I watched a couple of shots where he throws and it doesn't do what he's probably expecting it to do. And whether that's an issue with him not quite knowing his plastic or just a mistake, which we're not used to seeing Paul. And I think that's the big deal is we've seen for the past 3 years Paul be virtually unbeatable.
Yeah.
And now that there is a crack in the facade, a lot of people are jumping on and being like, oh, well, Ricky's come up, Ricky's got this fire under him, which he does. And he's caught up to Paul. I don't know if that's the case or not. We'll find out as the year progresses, but the based on the eye test, looking at the way that they're playing, Ricky looks like a better player right now.
Sure. And there's a lot of people lighting up on the board right now talking about who's technically better right now. We could take a snapshot today, and you could look at the wins, the losses, the scores, all of that stuff in the last 2 or 3 or 5 weeks, and that's going to give you one snapshot. You retract it a month, and it's going to give you a slightly different one. And I think if you move forward in a month, it might be even slightly different there. I mean, that's what we're here. That's what we're here to discuss and talk about what's here and now. It's exciting for everybody, and I think we're just going to see more sweet action, as we like to say.
I believe we are.
So Paul has confirmed with us, Paul Ulibarri, that is, the other Paul. But Paul Ulibarri has confirmed with us he's going to be checking in probably a matter of a few minutes. He's just trying to get to a space where he feels like he has enough service and signal to join us. So he's definitely aware of what's going on, and soon he's going to be joining us. So I think before Paul joins us, I think we should probably go ahead and make our announcement now.
Okay.
So how does that sound?
It's good. So it's a couple of weeks ago, the PDGA put out an RFP for Pro Worlds, for the live broadcast of Pro Worlds. We submitted our RFP.
Request for a proposal, for those who aren't familiar. It's like basically a bidding process.
Yeah, it's a bidding process. We filled out everything we needed to do. We submitted it and waited to hear back. And we found out about last week, maybe a hair earlier than last week, it was mostly confirmed that we received the approval for broadcasting Pro Worlds. So we are going to be the live broadcasters of Pro Worlds. This is the first time we've done Pro Worlds as Smashbox. So we are very excited. We're looking forward to putting together a phenomenal show for everybody.
What?
Yeah, what?
When's that going to start?
Which means we're gonna sub hire some good people. No, so we will be traveling to Emporia just like GBO, and we are going to be the ones doing the live broadcast for Pro Worlds this year. So we are very we're pregnant. We're not pregnant.
No,
thankfully.
I may look like it sometimes, but no,
I'm getting there. So
yeah, that's our big news. Very excited. As like we said. Just the opportunity to be able to submit, to be in a position to feel comfortable enough to know that we feel we can take on the task of doing something like a Worlds. Of course, we've been at some pretty serious events, including some majors. We've done everything from unsanctioned technically.
Yeah.
To B and A tiers and AM worlds for a few rounds. Majors. So we've been a little bit of everywhere, kicking off the Pro Tour, but right here and right now we can announce that we're excited to be bringing you the live broadcast coverage of the 2016 Pro Worlds taking place in Emporia, Kansas, which has a few built-in advantages in the fact that we've covered the glass blown there the last 2 years.
Check.
So that's awfully nice. We know that Signal is good at the 2 primary courses we'll be covering.
Check. Jones. Well, we'll see what's going to happen right now. Obviously, preliminary schedule. We hope to cover men and women, and so we're primarily going to be Jones East and the Country Club, but we might slip a Peter Pan in there depending on how the schedule goes.
Slip a Peter Pan.
Slip a Peter Pan.
We'll see how that goes. So that's some of the excitement that you're going to find. We're also going to be putting together a little bit of a advertising platform. I think we got to get used to these technical terms.
I know
these fancy people use.
This is really
an ad deck. That's what it is.
Yeah, this is really interesting for us because for most of the events, as you guys know, when we go to an event, it's there's already a major sponsor, whether it's DD at the Glass Blown, Vibram, Discraft at the Memorial, where we go to an event and we know who the advertisers are. Like, okay, these are our major sponsors. With Worlds, this is a PDGA event. Now, it is in Emporia, so DD will be working with us closely, but this means that we are now open to having additional sponsors. So if your club, and again, like Terry said, we're going to have an ad rate sheet, we're going to have an ad deck, whatever you want to call it. If you're interested in advertising for Worlds, for your company, for your club, personally, if you want to, take out a personal ad, hey, looking for a disc golf friend to join me for a round, I don't care. Reach out to us. We will be putting things out there. Hopefully we'll have a price point for everybody, and we can find a way to help you out.
To get you integrated. And what's cool is, of course, there's just like for a lot of other events or some other broadcast, things ranging from being the, maybe a presenting leaderboard sponsor to round recap of the day.
A whole preview sponsor.
A whole preview, shot of the day, replay. You could be the replay sponsor. There's a lot of different branding opportunities that you can be involved with for this major exposure.
For enough money, you can be Terry's hair sponsor.
You absolutely could be my hair or hat sponsor for the right amount of money if I had to go with a hat or sunglasses.
There you go.
I mean, there's so many options there as to what we could be doing. So we're excited to be doing it. And again, look for some of those opportunities. As Johnny V just mentioned, it's great, especially if you have an event taking place later in the year that you want to advertise for, your club is putting on, something like that. Those are other ways that you can, purchase ad space and whatever. So we're going to work with you guys to get all those details out there. And it's going to definitely be exciting. We'd like to thank, the forerunners, the people that helped get really live broadcasting going in Disc Golf Planet. They've been doing the Worlds now from 2010,
9 or 10.
Kansas City, they were not live, I want to say. So I believe it was
2010 at Santa Cruz.
2010 in Indiana.
In Indiana,
was the
11
first one.
was Santa Cruz. Yes.
So from 2010 through 2015, they were doing it. I was under the impression, I'm not even sure if they were had submitted to be part of it this year. I know they're moving in some other directions with other things that they're covering and worrying about, possibly outside of disc golf. So we've got some big shoes to fill. They've been doing it for 5 years now, and for us to move in and now take over this role and have this opportunity it's exciting. It's exciting for us, and it's a little daunting all at the same time. So, yes, sunscreen sponsorship. I could certainly do that as well. So, lots of different options out there, and there's already people chiming in on the board about co-commentary. Apparently, they want to get rid of me that quickly. There's mention of Schwebby as an option, which may be because
we'll see if he's playing or not.
There's as we're going to move into these years where Pro Worlds will be separated from the Masters Worlds, there may be a few people that may become more available. Somebody mentioned Liz Lopez, our new PDGA intern. I got to tell you, we don't have anything nailed down yet, but there's definitely some possibilities and options out there. So coming in at exactly the 1 hour mark is our good friend, Paul Ulibarri. How you doing tonight, buddy?
It's good. How are you guys? Can you hear me pretty good or no?
Yeah, we hear you great.
Yep.
Awesome.
We can. So we got to start with, where in the world are you right now?
I don't know.
All right. So you're behind the wheel. That's good to know.
Yeah, we're outside of Newton, Iowa, at the Brooklyn Travel Center.
Shout out to Brooklyn Travel Center, Newton, Iowa. All right.
And you're on your way, if I've looked at all the upcoming events, you're on your way to the Discraft Great Lakes Open, the D-Glow?
Yep. Yes, I am.
We just actually had a conversation with the AM Nationals champion in Gavin, and one of the things we talked about was just what it took for Discraft to put on such an amazing event. And you guys have personal ties and friendships with good friends over at Discraft. What keeps you guys coming back to that event? I know you always try and hit it every year, to the D-Glow.
Yeah, it's one of our our favorite events to go to. Like you said, we've stayed very good friends with Mike Wagner, who is running the company now. I think his uncle was Jim Kenner, who was the founder. And through the years, we've just maintained a very good friendship, mostly out of disc golf, to be honest. And,
sure.
So we stay with him, and it's more of a relaxing week to visit friends and have fun, really.
Now, what the Great Lakes Open was one of the original stops, maybe out of 6 or 7 or 8 elite National Tour Series events in the early 2000s, which means it's been around forever, and they obviously have done a lot of great things with that event. What courses are you playing, and how has that event transitioned throughout some of the years since you've been playing? I mean, you weren't even there for the beginning, like I said, way back when, but how's this event transitioned for you, and what do you see at it?
Yeah, I first played this event in 2007.
Okay.
And I've almost played every year since. So, I've seen a lot of the tournaments they run, and they always run a good tournament. This is going to be one of the first years that we're not going to play the toboggan. The last, I think, 2 years we played on the toboggan every round.
Okay.
I think since the national tour that Ricky won, which was the last national tour they hosted, which was 2013.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
And then this year they took the toboggan out, and we are playing 3 new courses that I actually have never heard of, and
So
I wouldn't be able to tell you what they were right off the top of my head.
Wow.
So they're not playing the Monster East or West in Ann Arbor.
Or the original,
the
Monster,
the original Monsters.
Right.
Oh wow. Okay, this will be different.
Yeah. What do you? And so here it is, Tuesday night. You're hoping to get to Michigan by what? Sometime late tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, tomorrow or probably tomorrow. I think tomorrow will be doable.
And so, how many are you going to play? Any of these courses blind, or are you going to kind of run out there and walk through them, or what's your plan?
No, I'll play them. I might end up playing one of them blind because it looks like the next few days might be a little bit rainy. But just like any tournament, I'll make sure that I get the practice I need on the courses.
Well, maybe that was a dumb question from me. If in fact, is it just Friday or Saturday and Sunday the event?
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking it was going to be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of thing. All right, and strike my dumb question from the records, please. Wipe those from the internets.
Yeah, we'll take them off the podcast for the audio version.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, Yuli, let's get. We got to catch up with your wife, who's got some good stories. But first, let's get to some Yuli's picks.
Yeah, the more important thing what happened this weekend was your picks came through. Your wife did all right, but really, you nailed it.
I did.
Whether you like it or not, you came in with the most amount of points. You scored 8 points this weekend.
Yep.
Because you picked Ricky to win. Check.
Yes, I did.
You picked Paul Macbeth to take second. So you got a point there because he technically took third. We had a huge tie for third. There were like 4 guys that were tied. And you picked Nate Sexton to take third, which he did. Right. So you got 3 points there. And you picked yourself to take fourth, which you didn't do. You did better than fourth. Obviously, you took tied for third with Nate. So you got a point there. So you scored 8 points this week, jumping yourself up to almost tied with me.
That's cute.
Yo, look at that.
That's cute.
Awfully cute. Yeah, so you scored 8 points. Terry followed up with 3 points. And I scored 2 points. I had Ricky and Paul mixed up. That's basically. I had Ricky 1, Paul 2. Paul took third. I got 1 for that. I got 1 for Ricky, so I got 2. And basically Terry did the same thing, but he threw in one other person. I think someone did take
Christian Dietrich.
You had Dietrich in there who didn't
in fourth place. Who finished up?
Yeah, and then you took someone else at third. Whatever.
So funny quick story about that. During the round, one of the rounds must have been third round. We were on a little backup on hole 11 on the West Coast, and Christian Dietrich walked up and he's like, "Hey, I'm Christian," and I'm like, "I know who you are."
Sure,
clearly. Sure. And he's like, I wanted to say hi or whatever, and I said, "Oh, did you? There was I said I picked you to perform really well," and he's like, "Yeah, somebody mentioned something or other about it." And so maybe there wasn't enough pressure applied.
I was gonna say you put the undue pressure on the poor guy.
I don't know, but he still finished like in 10th or 12th. Obviously a solid performance, but not good enough for me, Christian.
I know. I picked Eagle to take third and Dustin Keegan to take fourth, and while they both performed relatively well, not quite as well.
All right, Yuli. Well, as I mentioned earlier today, that's what you were so far back. I was thinking that maybe we should just have you pick from the AMTs moving forward. I thought that would be appropriate for you.
I get 6 picks to your guys' 4.
You can pick from the AMTs.
It was funny the first time. Repeating
funny.
it doesn't make it any funnier.
It makes it funny to me over and over. All right. Well, solid performance. Now, there was a little confusion here tonight as to Johnny V had fired up the Greater Hartford Open.
Yeah, last week I put in a couple events, just preliminary, just to make sure we had some in there, and then we were talking about maybe doing Colorado, but
or Wisconsin over in Madison, A-tier, but
didn't want to give us any home field advantage. We understand, so we ended up going with the Greater Hartford Open, which is over in Connecticut. It's got a pretty decent pro field. Yep. I think that we have. I think there was like 5,000 rated players there, or 4, something like that. 7,000 rated players there, and I'm gonna start out this week.
Let's hear it.
I'm looking at the same picks. What was that?
Feeling confident, are you?
I'm feeling pretty good.
You should with that too from last week.
Yeah, well, it can only go up. Well, actually, not really. So fourth place. I know he's had a rough week this week, and our thoughts do go out to him particularly. And I need to reach out to make sure that he is still playing. But I had Jordan Castro picked in fourth. So for those of you that don't know, Jordan's a huge smashy, good friend of ours. His father passed away this past week, so I'm not positive he's playing, but if he is, I think he's gonna bring it. So I had him take fourth. Third place, I went with more of a traditional pick with Craig Cutler, who's always plays pretty solid out there on the East Coast.
Yep.
Second place, I went with Steve Brinster. And you can't bet against Ricky the way he's playing right now. As we were talking earlier, it seems like his putts are just kind of ridiculous. So I'm gonna go with Ricky for first place.
All right, I love it. Nice. I love it because I don't see Ricky on the registration, but I love it. So.
Oh damn! I always hope it did.
Literally, Ricky was on the registration earlier today when I picked.
Ouch. All right,
all right. So I guess I'm gonna have to make that change. Awkward. Now Ricky flew into Kansas City because he was on the registration literally earlier today when I made my picks. Mm-hmm. He was clearly pulled off.
It got warm in here all of a
sudden. It did. So does anyone know the story with why Ricky's not making it?
Yuli knows.
What's up?
I think he's going home.
Is he? He's going to go down to South Carolina or wherever he's from?
Ohio.
Oh, that home. Okay.
And I heard he possibly might be going to the playoff game.
Yeah, I saw that. Now, there was a little confusion because he said he wants to go to the playoff game. Who wants to join him for the playoff game on Thursday night? And then I read a little further on my Facebook stalking, and it said, somebody said, "Are you going or are you watching the game?" He's like, "Oh, no, just watching it." So I don't know. But maybe he's gotten a hookup since then to get into the game. But my impression of what I saw at the time on Facebook was that he was just excited to watch it somewhere from home, not necessarily get into the arena.
Then here's what I'll do. Bump all my picks up 1, and I'll take Tim Barham to take 4th.
Is that in the rules, Yuli? I know we've
done it for Yuli, for Mosier, and everything like that. It hasn't helped him, but
every week for me. So I guess that's fun.
So all right. So yeah. So I'll take Tim Barham to take 4th, and we'll bump Jordan Castro up to 3rd, assuming he's playing. I'll reach out to him, and I'll take. I think I had Cutler and then Brinster winning.
I guess anything goes here for you guys.
It does.
That apparently are the rules. All right, Yuli, you or me, buddy?
Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to go in. Mine are pretty easy.
So you clicked on rating and then...
Yep, and started from there. But to prove just how much I barely referenced that, the highest rated gentleman at the event, I have taken 4th place. So Will Schustrick, rated 1027. Did you not have him in your top 4?
I didn't.
Okay. Will Schustrick, rated 1027. I put him in 4th place. I put, I believe, fellow teammate in Joey Lutz. Is he a fellow teammate of yours, correct, Yuli? All you guys?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I put Joey in 3rd place. Joey's, man, he's like the 6th highest rated player there out of Chattanooga. So rated 1001. I've got Joey finishing 3rd. I went with Craig Cutler in 2nd, and I went with semi-local boy out on the East Coast, at least, in Steve Brinster as well. What's his PDG number? 10628?
Yeah.
It's near mine. I always remember it. And his birthday is just a day off of mine.
Well, look at you.
So I'm picking Steve Brinster to take it down. So again, recap, Brinster, Cutler, Lutz, and Schustrick are in my, well, you can just seal them up. Those are the top 4. That's how it's going to go. Just check the PDGA page tomorrow. That's what they'll be. Or something. All right. What do you got, Yuli?
All right. Similar picks to you. I have Will Schustrick in 4th. 3rd place, though, I have to go with last year's champion, Bobby Copperweight.
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, he's won 3 out of the last 4 years. He kind of let me down in the last pick that we did in Connecticut, so I had to bump him down a couple.
Ouch.
If you're listening. Definitely didn't pick Andrew Tabazinski, who I picked to get 4th last tournament, and he got, I think, dead last. So
not that you're gonna call him out or anything.
He's getting a bump too. But 2nd place, I have fellow teammate Chris Dickerson.
Okay. Yep.
He's playing a lot of good golf this year. I think he has over 10 wins already. I almost picked him to win, but I couldn't go against Steve Brinster. I mean, he's going
to drive that bus right to a victory.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah. It's going to be tough. Those are his style of courses out there, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually won that tournament in the past too. So.
Well, and I got to say, with you picking Schustrick 4th and picking Brinster 1st, you and me, our picks aren't going to be too dynamic. I mean, at most, there's going to be a 6-point swing, and that's only if you nailed them correctly and I'm dead wrong.
Yeah. No, I did.
So I think the previous 40 weeks will show otherwise, or whatever we've been doing.
Not last week. The turn.
Okay.
Yuli's made the turn.
Yeah, making the turn. More like going back to the parking lot. All right, so, but we should have a good battle there for sure.
So I saw that you guys had the amateur
nationals
AmNats champion
Gavin,
and I wanted to talk about something this week too. I saw at the Beaver State Fling that Jake Laputka played advanced.
He did,
and he took 2nd.
Yeah, and I'll admit, when I talked to Gavin, I said, here you are, you've just won the biggest title of the year so far, being the Am Nationals. Is there any additional pressure for all the other events? I mean, you go to your local C tier next week, and if you take 4th, is it going to feel not quite the same? And he said he didn't feel too much pressure in that sense. But so what you're talking about really is the fact that Jake Laputka won the 2014 Amateur Worlds over good friend Smashy as well, and Jordan Castro, along with a couple others.
Yep.
And that were in the final 9, I should say. Do you have any insight on that? I know Jake's wanted to travel. I know he's had some sponsorship opportunities. Any insights as to where he's at?
In tournaments too. I've actually played with him on a lead card at an A tier where he had a solid finish and stuff like that. Me and Coling were talking about it earlier this week, and I didn't know how I felt about it. It's one thing I feel like to play, maybe AM Nationals or something and winning that, and then playing more amateurs or something. Like I see that Isaac's been playing a lot of amateur this year, and he's taken second a few big tournaments. So I have no problem with somebody playing if they're not, winning.
Sure.
But I don't know. I was a little confused to see that being a past amateur world champion, I was a little confused to see somebody winning the tournament, having a pretty successful career, and then moving down and actually losing in advance.
Well, let me follow up on a few details since I have the luxury of the internets in front of me. So this isn't all from memory. Back in 2014, when he won AM Worlds, he had played 11 pro tournaments and 11 amateur tournaments. So I just wanted to throw that out there. In 2015, so what would be in theory, really his first full rookie season, he competed in 20 professional tournaments, and it looks like he cashed in approximately 8 of those 20. So not quite half, but he competed in approximately 20. Looks like 199 or 2 999s in there. He withdrew from Beaver State or didn't show up for Beaver State last year. So it looks like really 18 tournaments, and he cashed in roughly half of those, winning $2,643 at the professional level last year. And I'm just checking out some of the big tournaments. He did not cash at the Memorial. He didn't cash at Pro Worlds. He didn't cash at Ledgestone. So the biggest events that he competed in, none of which he cashed at. Okay, St. Jude, Beaver State, yeah, all those. Okay, so move into 2016, and I see that he hasn't been playing nearly as much. He's only played at this point 5 events plus Glassblown, so really 6 or 7 tournaments. And
those of last year he won, right? No open wins.
So last year he had, I believe 0. Oh no, he had one small, very small C tier win. It may not even been a full blown event. It might have been more like it looks like, yeah, he won over 9 guys in a little event in California, and so no other real wins.
Does Jake live out
wins.
in that side now?
Jake's out in like Utah area, but I know he was talking about traveling quite a bit, and
I think he's staying in Oregon.
Okay, so yeah, now he might be out there again. So
I think it might have had something to do with maybe not being able to get into the open side. Also.
That is very possible.
I'll say if that's the case, if you couldn't get into the open side, with Beaver State being as large as it is, I have less of an issue with him playing in advanced. It's a huge event, and it's not like he's going to some local C tier and deciding, I can't get into open, so I'm going to play advanced. I'm going to clean up on these guys. It's a solid competition. Now, continuing to play advanced, I think it depends on how much he's playing and where he's at in life. Clearly winning AM Worlds is a big deal. And then coming back and playing advanced, it looks, I'll say this, it looks bad, but there's always pending circumstances.
I'm going to chime in there and say it may look bad, but when you look at it on paper, it's really not. And
correct.
And to me, it's the thing that sticks out to me first and foremost, and I know you can only put so much emphasis on it, but he's rated 962. Right. He is not cashing, and I'm rated right near him. He's not cashing at most A tiers. He is not cashing at majors. He's not cashing at national tours. You're not cashing unless you have an abnormal week. Mm-hmm. You're not cashing at those big pro events. 962 is what many would consider not a professional caliber rating.
No,
and obviously age isn't an issue either. Like I would have no problem with an Anthony Varela, Isaac McDonald winning 4 AM World titles by the time they're 18 years old,
Okay.
Given the fact that they're young, and we don't know what with college and stuff, if there's, scholarship opportunities or something like that. Like I'm just throwing stuff out there, but I'm just saying age isn't an issue with Jake.
No, Jake's mid 20s ish or early 20s at most. He's
Right.
he's so he's a little bit older, so I don't think that's as much of a concern. So it's interesting, and somebody like Johnny and I, who used to play at a higher level, a slightly higher level, and now you look at this whole pros playing AM and all these other things. He's rated 962.
But is it an issue that if he wins?
I don't know. I mean, clearly
Fair
some people would make it more of an issue than others.
So since he loses, does he now get a free pass to play all amateur events again? And you know what I mean? I'm
certainly
just
do.
I think, and this is me personally, I think at a 962 you should be playing open. And I know there's ratings and there's calibers and this, like, that's me personally, especially if you've won an AM World. It's not like you're dropping down to 930, 940 because you're not playing, life gets in the way, you grow up. Who knows? It's different for everybody. But I like I said, I have way more leeway at these really large events.
Here's where I sit with it. I don't mind somebody winning AM Worlds and then staying amateur as long as they want. There's something to be said about that. I mean, what did Tiger Woods won, like 4 amateur titles or something?
Sure.
Amateur world titles or something
before
he moved up to open. But moving down and then moving up, and I'm not just trying to pick on
we know.
Jake here.
You could be saying this about me.
Yeah.
No, really, but this is an issue that I think needs to be talked about.
Yeah, and again, to dig a little deeper, I'm looking at his previous rating. When he won AM Worlds, he was arguably either 960 or 960, 969, somewhere right around there. And the highest he's ever been rated was just last May in 2015 at 971. So he's never been a guy, I'll say, to be scared of. When somebody shows up to a tournament, they're not like, we're at this A tier, what did Jake shoot? We got to be concerned about his score. And again, none of this is to belittle or rip on Jake. I'm just saying he hasn't been that dominant player. He had a really good week at AM Worlds. Obviously came out on top of a really strong field, but he's not necessarily at that upper echelon of competitiveness with our other players. And he's in a gray zone, and I feel bad for him because he's probably mentally in a gray zone as to where he wants to be and should be.
And I saw him after the Beaver, and I saw him holding the trophy, and he looked legitimately happy also.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I just think I've never heard of somebody winning going back and playing amateur.
It's definitely different in our sport. We have a mentality of, and myself included, like, once you win in a division, you move up.
Right, he won, then he played open. He didn't cash into all the tournaments, but he definitely took, I'm guessing, well over $1,000, well over $2,000 or something since then.
Yeah.
And then
$3,000, I think it said, career earnings.
Yeah, $3,080 he's won since becoming a professional, which can also be a little bit regional. You play in the right area, and fair not to say, you play in the right areas, it can be a lot easier to win money than if, I moved down to North Carolina. I'm not barely ever sniffing bottom cash.
That still makes you a professional because you're the person to beat in that area.
Sure.
Yeah.
People up to you as a professional, and that's who you learn from.
What do you think, and I'll put myself right on the top of the chopping block here. What do you think of well, maybe you're answering that. Do you feel the exact same about a person like myself with my rating and my skill sets that have significantly been non-existent, lack of practice or lack of caring? But
you never won the biggest amateur title that the game has. I mean, that's
Glow World Champion 2008. Where were you, bro? That was me. No, you're right. I never won an AM Worlds. In fact, I usually perform very poorly at the AM Worlds I attended to, the ones where I turned in my scorecards on time anyway. So you're right. I've never won, but I've cashed at a Pro Worlds, multiple Pro Worlds. I finished as high as 23rd or 25th or 27th, whatever, at 2007 Pro Worlds, rated 995. And now I'm in the 950s. I played 2 or 3 tournaments a year. I'm in the 950s. Do you feel like someone like myself, who obviously has other obligations and other priorities, when I go play, if I were to play in the Mad City Open this weekend here in Wisconsin at an A tier, would it be crazy for me to play open or to play advanced? Should I have a choice? Should I care about what others think? Should I just care about what my rating is? What would your advice be to someone like me? Don't be bashful.
I think that I don't know. It's a gray area, like you said, but I think it's tough because like after I won it, Am Worlds, like put you this way, after I won Am Worlds, I struggled the next year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you I didn't cash in but half of the events, and I played a lot of bigger events.
Let's see if I beat you at any of those. Let's go back.
And I also thought for several years after that I moved up too fast.
Sure.
I'm with you there. Like I felt
like I was pressured into moving up too fast. Now that I look back.
Sure. And I've told the story before.
That was my first ever win. Period.
Was Am Worlds really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had taken second and third a bunch of times in like local tournaments in Arizona, but I had never won.
Well, and I've got two funny stories, and I think I've told you this before. The year after you won, we went to the Memorial and we played some random draw doubles, and you and I were partners, and I had no clue who you were. Even the year after winning Am Worlds, because to me at that point the Am division was behind me, and it wasn't really a thought. It was before media stuff, and I remember somebody like, yeah, you're paired up with like. I'm like, who? Paul who? I'm like, whatever. And then I played pretty well, but I remember walking up, and every time you were out driving me by like 50 feet, getting much closer. And I'm like, oh, all right, this guy's pretty good. And someone's like, yeah, he's the Am World champ. And I'm like, oh, all right. Okay, cool. But I'm with you in that, like, when I was younger, the guys were moving up faster. And in order to play with them, like people like Terry and all the guys we traveled with, I jumped up divisions faster. I kind of felt that when I walked up to a division and I knew I was going to cash, regardless of division, if it was Am or Advanced, when I went to a tournament and thought, okay, I'm going to cash in this event, that's the time to move up. Like, and I moved up to the pro, and I didn't sniff cash. I barely sniffed cash the entire time I was in pro. I've never been higher than like a 963 rated pro or something like that. And I'm with you. Like, in theory, I should be an advanced player. But at this point, I won one real small pro event years and years and years ago. And, and now we do what we do. So it's an interesting conundrum.
Let's say that I have a mental breakdown and I drop to 960. Am I then allowed to go play the Beaver State Fling and win the tournament?
Technically, ratings-wise, yes.
Yeah.
But again, that's why I like to use me as an example only for the fact that I was never at your level. The highest I was is 995. You've been, in the lead at the World Championships, and I'm not saying you couldn't, but I almost still don't even feel like those are fair comparisons because you are one of the sport's elite players, one of the top 10 or so.
Would it be weird if, let's just say, Dr. Rick Vokes played in advanced division, because he's much older. He plays in an age-protected division. His skills clearly can't compete with open players, but he has won for years in his division and the divisions he was in at the time. But now, his rating probably puts him at like 970 or 980.
He would smoke those guys.
Yeah, he would probably. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
he knows how to win tournaments. He would win.
Yeah, he knows. He's got a great mental game.
But Dr. Rick Vokes is now down to. He's got 114 career wins, but he's down to 957. Where as of 2001 or whatever, in when he was competing, he was maybe Masters or GM age competing at the Pro Worlds in Open. He was a much different rating. So, what if there wasn't his division?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if he goes to Beaver State and there's nobody else in his division and he signs up in advanced, and he wins it, or he takes second, is there a stigma like, oh, well, yeah, you're a good player? Well, yeah, but look at your rating. You clearly, it's, he plays in against guys who throw, 300 feet less than a lot of the pros. Because he's probably these days topping out at 350.
Me and Jim were joking. We were saying we were going to put a chat together of all the AM champions and vote. it was okay.
Poor Jake. He's like, do I get a vote?
So this is something that I think is an interesting debate that can obviously rage on forever. One of the reasons, though, to look at the letter of the law from the PDGA, the whole amp playing pro, or pro playing am, I should say, is for a lot of the reasons that we've kind of just tiptoed around. Somebody says on the board, if you get injured or if you take a few years off. And then my question was, am I taking a few years off? I used to play at least a couple times a week. I'm down to literally a few rounds a year. So when I go to the Mad City Open, I'm not a competitive player in the Open Division at all.
Not in those courses. I mean, you and I both know that there are some courses, like if you go to Colebrook, you can compete.
Even still, my skill sets just aren't what they were because I'm not playing like I used to.
I agree.
The game's so mental, too, that if you were to play amateur, and let's say there's a 990 rated amateur in there, I bet you go into the event thinking that you're going to win the event. Correct?
I would of course I'd have some confidence, but I would also have the realization that wow, there's a bag that there's a really good player here too. And 990 rated am versus a 990 rated pro, those are essentially the exact same thing. And I think some people argue they're not. I think they are.
Difference because we're talking about Rick Vokes coming down, and he is not he's not a 960 rated amateur.
Correct.
He's a 960 rated professional.
He has the complete mental game walking into it where he knows he can win. Walking up to, let's say, we'll just say a 980 rated advanced player who in theory outscores him more often now, but it's a totally different game when you're on the same card and you're watching Dr. Rick throw 280 feet dead center in the fairway every time. Because that's what Dr. Rick does.
I think that it needs to be you accept cash and you're a professional.
Okay.
For how long?
PDGA cash and you're a professional. And if something happens to where you have some sort of breakdown, like you said, and to where you can't compete at that level, then something needs to happen with the uppers of the PDGA to where they vote on if you can be amateur status or something.
And they kind of do that because trust me, it's ran through my head thinking like it's probably been 3 years since I've cashed at an event.
But here's my point to it though. They have addressed this.
Correct. With
the pros playing am, and they've basically said rather than constantly classifying and reclassifying people and just having to petition and reclassify was the terminology, they just said if you're sub 970, you can play any amateur event that you qualify for within a ratings besides the majors. And the only two real AM majors right now, or three, are AM Nationals, AM Worlds, and AM Worlds doubles. Other than that, Johnny V and I could show up at any A-tier event and play advanced right now because we're sub 970. Even if I have 25 open wins, I can show up and play in any event. And
I'd like to play MNAPs.
To further your point, the PDGA doesn't need to go through the rigmarole now of reclassifying people nonstop and making just a subjective decision. They just say, okay, look at the rating. If you're sub 970,
pretty much
you can do it.
giving up on it and being like, well, we don't have time for it.
Do you think something like that would lead to more players, we'll say, quote unquote, bagging, not wanting to move up, or does that not a concern?
To me, there is no such thing as bagging.
Okay.
To me, there is amateurs and there's professionals, and if you don't accept cash and you resist the cash for your whole entire career and you win a bunch of baskets, that's fine with me.
Sure. And we're in a different time now than when Terry and I were AM players, where you could win an AM event and walk away with $500 in merchandise, or because
a lot of tournaments are going to trophy only tournaments.
Exactly.
Anyway.
And I would love to see more of that. The larger events go to trophy only and say, okay, well, congratulations, you win this mini basket. Awesome. It's a beautiful basket. There you go. And I would like to see more of that personally. But
good friend and Smashy of the Smashy Brett Comensoli is out on the board saying that also previous AM Worlds champ in Spencer Wilkin from Illinois, as I was referenced earlier, he's played in both pro and AM events this year. He won in Charlotte, which would have been 2012, and I didn't fact check him. I don't think I need to. Brett says that he's played in both pro and AM events this year. So, and I look at Greg Schwartz, same idea. He's right in that 960, 970, 950 range. Greg Schwartz too.
He can't play advanced. He took down all.
I know. He's a little extra.
Down amateur status for us, man.
But I mean, if you look, Kenny Glassman, I'll throw him in there again from Illinois, rated in the 960s, 970s. He hovers in that neighborhood at least, maybe 980s. He never got to that next level like you did, and
I think there's two things that need to change. The first is the pressure to move up.
Yep,
sure.
I don't think there should be much. Sure.
Is that in all divisions or just the advanced division? Like, what about rec players?
I'm talking amateur to pro.
Okay.
I'm talking amateur to pro.
Okay.
I don't think there should be as much pressure. I think if you're an amateur player and you win the amateur world championships, you have the choice to move up and potentially cash. If you do not cash in the open division, then you are not a professional, and then you can play amateur again.
Okay.
But if you're cashing on a small level, if you get last cash in a C tier, you made the choice to play open thinking that you were going to cash, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or you could be testing the waters, though, to see how you really stack up. But you're right. I mean, you enter a tournament to win stuff, money. So I agree with that.
Now, this is a whole different thing, but then they play open and then they deny the cash and they get merch.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that either.
That again could be players testing the water. Would you rather see them play advanced and destroy an advanced field by 12 strokes?
I think you make the decision to play open, thinking that you're an open player and that you have a chance. I think that's the way the game needs to be. I don't think people should be pressured to move up and miss a bunch of cashes. I think after you've proven that if you're winning the amateur world championships, no matter your skill set, no matter how long, you're a professional, in my opinion.
Okay.
If you're winning and you're beating an Isaac McDonald, Anthony Barella, like these are people that are competing for that title. If you're beating those people,
mm-hmm.
and then the next day you make the choice to play open, those guys are really good.
Yeah.
I don't disagree.
They're good.
I think of a David Wiggins, 2010, Ohio. I was there for the Amateur World Championships to marshal and help on a PDGA perspective. He had turned down cash, I don't know if it was a half dozen times, prior to going to Am Worlds. And again, the logic being I'm going to go play pro events. I think he may have even won a pro event and turned it down. I don't recall, but I know he was offered cash multiple times, turned them down because he had his mindset on going to Am Worlds, and then he crushed Am Worlds.
I've got no problem with that.
Okay. Yuli, any input?
I don't think I have a problem with it either.
Okay.
No, I mean, if clearly you have, just like,
in golf you have amateurs playing like the Masters, and it's not a stretch to say someday that an amateur is going to win the Masters, in my opinion, because a few of them have been really close. And golf's to that level right now to where I think that I just saw an article where there was 10 different people that have won on tour, 12 different people that have never won a PGA event that won this year. So
yeah, there's a lot of parity there.
I think it was the person who won the Masters this year. It was his first ever PGA win.
Okay, well, it's an interesting debate. I think our ratings, and I know everyone has a different opinion on ratings. I think our ratings are somewhat of an indicator. They give you a little bit of a snapshot where players are at. I think they can aid and assist in telling people, at least give some idea. When somebody tells me they're 10-10 rated, or I know they are, that gives me some idea of their skill sets. It may not be a perfect system according to some, but at least it lets you know in the neighborhood of where they are, versus somebody that says, yeah, I've been playing 4 years and I'm rated 890. Okay, well, that, again, gives me a really good indicator of what kind of player you really are. I think they assist the process.
I wouldn't mind a formula, so to speak, of saying you haven't cashed in X number of events that you've played, and your rating is X amount, below, we'll say 970 or below 1,000 or whatever, and you haven't cashed in 20 events straight, that you can go back to amateur at that point, because clearly you're either one of us, where you've let yourself go physically and mentally and whatever, or you're just mentally not prepared to be a pro. Like, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to go with another stat that's just coming off the board thanks to Brett saying, look at last weekend's Beaver State Fling, 79 open competitors, 2 players sub 990 cashed out of 31. There were 31 cashing players, and 2 of them were rated sub 990. I'd be willing to bet they were local or semi-local.
That stat really kind of means nothing to me because
Really?
like we're comparing amateurs and then we're comparing the biggest tournament that there is. Like it'd be like comparing an amateur to somebody who's playing, like, again, the Masters or something. Like those two things, like I feel like in order to play in a national tour event, in my opinion, you have to be the best of the best. Now our sport's not to that level yet, but that's what I mean when I don't think that stat really means anything to me, ratings wise, what they shoot, this, that, and the other thing. I don't even think they should be allowed to play in the event.
I don't have a problem with them playing in the event, as you say, right now. If we get to a point where there's enough 1,000-rated players that they can fill the event, at that point, obviously, the tiered entry will hopefully eliminate that. Because as we know, if you want to cash in an NT or better, you have to rate it. You have to throw 1,000 rated rounds or better for the open division.
And sometimes even 1,010 golf doesn't cash.
And now you look at some of these A tiers, it's probably down to 990, 985 or something like that. You know, I'm sure Chuck. Sometimes if you say his name 3 times, he just shows up.
Times another number times your age, and that's
exactly. He could tell you. He could pull up the stats and say, "Oh, in order to cash in an A tier, you need to average X amount for the past whatever." But I think hopefully in the next 5 years, we're going to see more 1,000-rated players. We're going to see more of these players touring a little bit more and filling up these events.
Somebody's going to make a putt and get on ESPN, Johnny.
I like the throwback here. All right.
Not going to happen.
It will happen.
Okay, let's follow this up.
Okay, let's say, give me a scenario.
Let's
where it
qualify
happens.
this a little bit. A, will it be for a win? And B, who's it going to be? Does it matter?
It could be anybody.
Could it be Kat sitting next to you? Could it be you? Does it matter the player?
If a woman open player or a men's open player makes outside, I'm going to say, a 40-footer at the World Championships this year,
for the win,
it will be on ESPN. I guarantee that.
Wow.
There's no way that if they're putting on Paul McBeth getting out of bed and making the trick shot like you said,
slow news day,
and then the very next day putting him acing, like that's bizarre to me that it was back-to-back days.
Yep.
Cool, but bizarre. Then somebody winning an actual world title, making something like that, and then the roar and all that, the whole situation, it has to go on there. It has to. Especially, and here's the reason, especially because of how much publicity that disc golf is getting right now. So many people are going to see and now understand in better retrospect because of what Philo's doing, because of the aces. They're going to be like, wow, okay, yeah, this person just won a world title. That deserves a top 10.
Fair enough. I love the scenario. I agree with you.
I think if you might get it if it's a playoff. I don't think you'll get it for a win. Even if you're tied going into hole 18. I think if you hit a 40-footer win, I still don't think it makes it down there. But I will say this, I think it has a better chance, a longer putt from a female competitor, and I'd love to see that. But because I think that it's a more unique situation that ESPN would look at. I don't think you're going to see it from a male competitor.
You're saying tie ball game, last hole, Emporia.
Yeah.
We're talking 2,000 spectators with hopefully the best film crew filming, and you don't think that somebody making a long putt will get on ESPN? See, that's crazy to me.
I agree. I would love to see it. I don't quite think we're quite there yet. Because a 40-foot putt, and I know we know how difficult it is, it looks easy on camera.
For a world title, though, it has
I
nothing
know.
to do with the putt. That's the thing.
I know, but
I agree with your argument. Yeah, Yuli, I agree with your.
they put like traditional golf top 10.
Mhm.
Tiger Woods making a 12-footer.
I know.
10. So,
but the difference is, look at the number of people that play golf, and we all know putting in golf is tougher than putting in disc golf. It's there's more to deal with a golf putt with the greens and stuff. Now,
did you just hear what I said? I said like a 10-footer was
I know.
on top.
But
so I'm talking about a 45-footer for a world title.
It's still I just don't think we have still don't think we quite have the recognition. And that's what I'm gonna say.
All right,
I'm gonna go on with
somebody mark the tape.
Chris Cobbs.
That's why they would put it on there is to give recognition.
I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I just don't think it's going to happen. So, but I would love to see it personally. I'd love to see it if it was a female competitor. If it was Kat or Paige or Val or Zoe or someone, hitting a 40-footer for the win and the whole place going nuts. I think that'd be phenomenal. And I think we have a better chance, the exact same scenario, going into the last hole tied, a man hitting a 40-footer and a female hitting a 40-footer. I think the female has a much better chance of getting on SportsCenter because it's more unique, because the major corporations look at that and say, hey, let's get some diversity on. We've got some females on here, things like that. I think you see that more likely than if you see you or Ricky or Paul hitting a 40-footer. It's just, I hope to God I'm wrong, but
I count on you being wrong all the time.
I know you do. I know you do.
There's no hoping about it.
And then another topic that you guys discussed earlier was the Macbeth Ricky scenario. Who's better? Is Macbeth falling? The majors are going to prove that.
Okay.
I don't think either of them. They care about who beats each other, but I don't think they care if it's a A tier. Obviously, a national tour means a little more to them, but you're going to see who the better player is at the major. Guarantee that.
Okay.
And I think that's the way that all of us at the top feel. Obviously, winning a national tour is great, but Macbeth right now is hands down the best player in the world because he's won the past 4 majors, and I don't think there's any way that you could debate until after the first major.
Sure. And
Ricky
I agree with you.
Wins the major, you can start debating. I win the major, you better start debating.
We will.
We definitely
because
will.
it is what we all think of as. I mean, that's the top level.
Yep.
That's when I 100% believe that the people that have a chance to beat us or tie us in A tiers, national tours, it's just the way it happens. Those guys all fall down, and then it's the same group of guys. It really rarely ever changes, right?
Yeah. What's interesting is, as you're just alluding to, we haven't seen technically a major yet this year. We've seen World Tour events, we've seen A tiers and NTs and some of these bigger events. We haven't seen a major yet as of this year. So right now, as you just alluded to, Paul has the last 5 majors in a row, one of which being his 4th world title in a row. So
agreed.
I don't know if it's just me who thinks like that, but when I think about my season, the only thing that I look at is my major finishes.
Okay.
That's what wins, and then major finishes.
Sure.
That's where it breaks down to who the best in the world is every single year.
And I'm with you. Personally, I think Paul's still the best player out there. I think that Ricky's closing the gap, clearly.
Oh, I think that
the whole field. Well, I agree, the whole field. But right now, if you ask most fans, they think it's a 2-horse race. Whether or not it's true, and we all know it's not, because look how you competed. Look how Sexton's competing. Look at how Eagle is competing. It's a close field. But if you ask and I've got stats for Fantasy Disc Golf that show it. You can look at the number of players that pick Ricky to win and Paul to win.
And is that like 98% of all first places?
Basically,
Ricky or Paul?
Basically, like people see.
Because you have Simon in there.
I'm just saying that's what the picks are, though. That's what the picks are showing, which is nothing more than speculation. But
so
the picks are showing.
I'll rattle Beaver State Fling. I'll rattle off some numbers here. 48% of the people. What was that?
Simon Lizotte, I think, is in there too. Right now.
I agree, but for Beaver State Fling, Ricky was picked 48.67% of the time. Paul was picked 46.67 for first place. For second place, Ricky was picked 44% of the time. Macbeth was picked 39% of the time.
So-
The next, after first place, the next highest percentage picked was Nate Sexton at 2%. I'm saying your viewers, your watchers see this as a 2-horse race. Now,
Oh, absolutely.
you and I both know that you're gonna win one. There's no doubt about it. At some point, you said it last week that your time's coming. I think Sexton's time is coming. I think Simon's time is coming. I think you're all gonna pull one in. But right now, the viewers and the watchers see this as a 2-horse race.
Yeah, so over 95% of the people out there playing in fantasy disc golf say it's either Ricky or Paul. 95%. So that definitely.
Well, yeah, and I just said it. I said that Macbeth is the best player in the world.
Yeah, he is. Right now.
All I was saying is the best player in the world will be at the major, and that's when we can decide who the best player is. I was saying that us as the top players, sure, we want to win national tours, but I'm saying at this point in my career, I've won a national tour, I've won plenty of A tiers. I don't think I have anything to prove other than winning a major, and so that's all that I think about, and that's all that I train for.
Yeah, and
I train as an athlete to win a major, because that's what I'm missing in my career.
Sure.
I'm also playing to make a living, sure. But as an athlete, being a selfish athlete, because it is an individual sport, those wins and stuff, it's like not even a second thought to me when I think about what to do at Worlds, what to do in Stockholm. Like that's where my head is. Period.
Yeah. Well, you're doing good at keeping up your non-major winning ways by your Yuli's pick, so you've got that to strive for as well this year. So we'll see how that shakes out. And with that beautiful segue, why don't we put your wife on Skype here? Did she just step out of the car? Is that what I heard? Or no? Is she there?
You're right back.
All right. So as soon as she gets back in, we want to talk with her a little bit. Of course, Katrina having a phenomenal weekend out there.
She was picked 83% of the time.
Okay. So
over Paige, who was picked 21% of the time.
All right. And
80%?
83% of people on skipace.com picked Cat to win this week. 21% picked Paige.
And now we have to have a little clarifier there. Hokum was picked 3%, who didn't compete in the event. And then Des Redding was picked 0.767.
Which is probably like 1 or 2.
And Jessica Weiss was picked. So Hokum, Redding, and Weiss, none of the 3 competed in the event.
Yeah.
I didn't remember making picks. That's crazy that somebody picked those people.
I'm wondering if people made picks, like when I set up the system, you can pick as far ahead as you want in advance. I wonder if people made a bunch of picks early in the season, because I think 0.67 is probably one person, or maybe 2.
It has to be at least 2.
Yeah,
there's a
and then 0.33 is probably one person.
Unless half a person picked Jessica to win.
Maybe.
Okay, here she is.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you as always.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, hello.
And switching gears over, Miss Katrina Allen, of course, again, congratulations on the huge win this weekend. One thing we're going to talk about a little later in the show, though, is you have this national tour thing all wrapped up, it seems to be. How's that feel?
Pretty good, I guess. Makes the last event less stressful, for sure.
Yeah, so you have, I was looking at the list a little bit earlier, and when checking out this year's national tour, you've won every one of them thus far, and it looks as if Paige has, in fact, taken second to you. So really, unless there's some math that I don't know how to do, or unless you don't compete, it looks like you've got this locked up. What are some of the goals that you have going? Paul just talked about trying to win majors. Obviously, we know you're out there trying to win as many events, but do you have any specific goals going into a new season like you did this year?
No, not really. I guess my goal, I guess even just going into the memorial, was to stay mentally strong. I've talked about that a lot, and I think it was something that has held me back before. And so I wanted to, no matter what, just stay there mentally through every event. I mean, the first round I started at the Memorial at Fountain very well through the first, like, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes. And then I got to a hole, and there was a guy, I think it's hole 5, that's along the road at Fountain, where you tee from OB.
Yep.
And the road's on the right. And there was a guy setting up.
I remember that.
Do you remember that?
I remember.
I looked at my group, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't feel like I should tee. And they just kind of were like, you should probably go. And I'm like, he literally had his thing on the green, like 25 feet from the basket.
Yeah.
And I hurried up and threw it straight into the tree, dropped OB, had to re-tee, took a 5, and was just like, oh my gosh. And then after that, I was like, well, that can't decide my tournament. You know, I have to move on. And that's how I want to play the whole season, I guess.
No, and that's great. You've been proving that you're mentally strong throughout. This weekend, you had a great battle again, no surprise, with Paige. And I'll admit, we had followed the second card all the way through the end of the tournament. And then I backtracked. I ran back. I ended up finding you guys on like 13 or 14 over on the other course. And I walked up on what was maybe one of your most frustrating holes. I hate to relive it, but it must have been one of your more frustrating holes. Is that 15? Yeah, that would be 15. And you got a little hung up and you couldn't get quite up and down, but then you hit a long putt to salvage a 4, and it was looking a lot worse than that. What were you thinking as you were, finishing up that hole and then moving into, a must-get birdie on the next hole?
Like I talked with you in the interview afterwards, I explained it as being numb. Like, I don't know, I was kind of frustrated and got to a place where I stopped thinking about scores or, I try not to do that anyways, but they were starting to creep in, and it seemed like everything bad that could have happened, and I kind of just let go. Does that make sense?
It does, and you maybe answered what would have been my next question. Again, I didn't see the previous 14 holes leading into that, but you had a little bit of a lead going into that round, and I know when I checked the scoring, you were, but again, by the time I walked over to you and everything, you guys were knotted up. It was you and Paige, and it looked like she was possibly 5 under, and I think you were even at the time that I had at least looked, and I was like, wow, there's something going on here, and I didn't know if Paige was playing exceptionally well and everything was just going right, or as you said, maybe you weren't catching any breaks, or if it was a combination of those.
Yeah, missed a few putts, and I don't know, just didn't really execute on a few up shots, and for some reason the whole weekend I wasn't getting up and down from like 120 feet, which is bizarre, but anyways.
And you walked up to 17, and I'll admit I was filming from a different angle, getting your shots, but not necessarily following the disc. And you put it right there on 17 and had all but a tap-in birdie, and that was kind of the turning point, because that then tied you again with Paige, correct?
Yep.
And you move over to 18. You both, it seemed like maybe they were great shots, but a little more conservative than I saw from you guys a few days earlier. And then the push on 18. What were you thinking as you walked over to 1? Were you still numb, or were you super confident, or what was your mentality going from 18 over to 1 once scores were tallied?
I actually, for the first time, was extremely confident. My drives, although my drive on 17 was a little high, if you take the drive from 17 and 18, it's kind of exactly the same drive that you have to throw on 1, or at least what I threw.
Sure.
Kind of that. And every round I had been past the tree in the previous 2 rounds on there. So
how far are you throwing that shot? That's a crush out there to get out into that opening.
Oh, I don't know. Paul keeps trying to tell me I throw 430 feet, but I don't believe him. So
Okay.
Really far.
Well, so. Paul says a lot of stuff we don't believe either, so to be fair. No, but you put yourself in a perfect position, and then you executed, you got up and down to put yourself in position for that putt. And then the whole world has seen it. We have to. You have bright pink pants on, but the whole world's seen it because it was such an awesome moment. Securing that national tour victory, does it get any better than that? Those are the moments you live for, right?
No, I don't think in my whole career, and I'm pretty sure I have over 100 wins if you look, but I don't think I've ever had to make a putt on the very last hole to win.
Wow.
Like I've maybe had to make a putt to push to a playoff or make a putt somewhere, like a bigger putt, but I don't think I've ever been on the last hole like.
Wow.
outside of like 20 feet having to make it, that I can remember anyways. I'm
Okay.
normally like parked, get to tap in or
Sure.
lay up or something.
Wow. So it's
So,
certainly a pressure putt in a pressure
yes.
moment.
It was the best feeling I've ever experienced in disc golf. Absolutely, 100%.
I've got to say, you both so skilled, and we move into hole. If we would have had to move into hole 2, I think we may or may not have seen a push with a pair of birdies or something, because I could see you guys both executing too. I would almost have hated to see it come down to hole 3, that
Yeah.
tiny little
And
tunnel shot, which no one could see because it's up in the it's up in a goofy spot. Are you glad? Obviously, you're glad it ended
I
before
didn't
then.
want it to go to 3.
Of course, I know, and I know this is all speculation and whatnot, but I was thinking ahead in my mind with filming and the gallery and helping tell the story, having it finish on a place like 3 by hitting a tree on an incredibly wooded hole. I don't know. That would have lost a little of its luster.
I wondered if we would just go like
1,
7,
2.
18 or 118, 1 8, 1 2. I don't know. I was
Yeah.
wondering if we go up there at all even.
So no shortage of excitement. We touched on it earlier. Obviously, Ricky kind of ran away with things the way he did, but then, Ken Climo hitting a huge putt. He gave you a shout out during the awards. In both of you hitting huge putts to finish. It's got to feel good. I mean, sure, he plays Masters, but he's, the greatest to ever play. It's got to feel good.
No,
Kenny,
I actually went and watched it.
Okay.
And went up and he had known or found out about my putt, and we kind of hugged and had a moment. And I think it's so cool to see him after playing for so long. He was like shaking with excitement, and it was one of the coolest things I'd seen. So
I think it just proves, and you were kind of shaking with excitement as we interviewed at the very end. It just proves you guys still have that fire and that desire, and no matter how many times you win or do well, like every one of them is still special to you, and it's a real genuine moment. I love it.
yeah, that's exactly. Even like 10 minutes or 15 minutes later, Kenny and I were walking down the parking lot together, and he was still shaking. He's like, how long does this last? Are you still shaking? And like, just stuff like, yeah. And I've always looked up to him anyways. Like, we're pretty close. And so it was just a great weekend for sure.
Yeah.
You said in the off season that you were going to work a lot on your mental game, and you have been playing the World Tour events. Do you think that playing in the World Tour events has helped that? Because clearly it's a different feeling when you play in the women's division. You're virtually always on the lead card, either fighting for the lead or in the lead. And in the World Tour events now, you're more so fighting for cash. Has that changed or helped out your game at all as far as how you approach the events that you play in the FPO division?
Actually, I did an interview with a Finnish newspaper, and they asked me that, and I said it's kind of weird to walk onto the first tee knowing that I really don't have a chance to win. Like, I'm, this year the favorite to win, and so to go into that is kind of bizarre. And then, to have to think about cashing puts me back to like 2011 rookie year.
A little bit different mentality, huh?
And then also a little pressure because, I have people messaging me and the guys I play with saying, that I could cash or qualify for the USDGC. So there's a little extra pressure there too.
And is it different, when you're playing in these, because you've been in the featured card a couple of times, having the competitors probably truly root for you?
Yeah.
Because they want to see because they all want to see a woman cash, just to say, hey, look at Kat, look how well she's done, as opposed to playing in the FPO where, well, you guys all root for each other. There's always there's always that phoniness to it, because you know that person wants to beat you. If they might congratulate you on a good shot, but deep down they're thinking, ugh, I just lost a stroke. Whereas if these men know that they're probably, the ones you've played with in the featured cards at least, know that they're probably going to end up ahead of you. So they're truly probably rooting for you. Is that?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's just a different feeling. It's like the first round at La Mirada with KJ and Andy and Macbeth was one of the best rounds I've ever had the pleasure of playing. As I felt, not just against me, but against each other, there was no competing against each other. It was like we were all just there to beat the course, and I could feel that we were pushing each other, not just me. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I think I enjoy the most, is that I see that more in the men's field. It's not so much. Does that make sense a little bit?
Sure.
It does, sure.
Yeah, and because we've talked about this to your husband, how there's less of that rawness in the men's division than there is in the women's division. But
Yeah.
do you see yourself playing more World Tour events this year?
I'm playing in the European Masters.
You are playing the European Masters. Okay, I assumed as much.
A
But
week from today, actually.
oh,
Or
excellent.
2 weeks from today. Sorry.
Excellent.
Okay. Anything else that's in your sights for this year that has you particularly excited? I got to assume going after a world's title is one of the next big things on your agenda.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, I'm extremely excited to go back to Finland. It's like kind of become a second home. I have a lot of friends and family there, and so I'm already made plans to hang out with some friends as soon as I get in there, and then do some clinics, and then we'll play the Estonian Open. And I've never been to Estonia, so that'll be awesome. And let's see. Then, European Masters will be my last chance to try to qualify for the USDGC and possibly qualify for, or just cash in the Disc Golf World Tour.
Okay.
Are you gonna let Paul come overseas with you this time?
Or are you gonna hide his passport?
You're gonna hide his passport.
Shut up. We're waiting to find out if it's been accepted, and then we'll know. But yeah, I already booked my flight. I'm out of here.
I mean, we understand you need a break from him. We get it.
We do too sometimes.
Every week we think like, oh God, Paul. You know
what? This will be our last question of the night for you. What's been your best, most memorable moment from overseas thus far this year that you've experienced? I know you're excited to go back. What kind of stands out to you when you've traveled over there?
Oh my gosh. Like I said, just I guess a couple things, but one would be
things you can talk about on air. That is.
Yeah. One would be Dick Lampinen and Aino Payu were kind of my chauffeurs.
Okay.
And Prodigy Disc Europe made the trip possible, so they also were taking care of my meals and things. And every day I learned a new Finnish word from Aino, and I don't know, we were just, like I told you, we were kind of just in tears laughing every day. It was a good time. And then yeah, the black party's always awesome.
Okay.
We went out and danced, and I was in tears watching Ricky dance because his dancing's so awesome.
Yeah, that's so weird.
If it's anything like his celebratory run-ups, they've got to be good. I think we've seen Ricky at a club or two, and he's got some work to do.
Yeah, I think when we were at the was it Stonehouse?
Glass blown party.
Yeah, the glass blown party. I pulled him. I literally pulled him on the dance floor at one point, and it didn't last long. He looked very uncomfortable and turned around.
He had putting practice to do.
That was fun, and then just the whole European Open experience, of course, is awesome. Whether there's women's division or not, that course is amazing. So.
Perfect. All right. You got anything else for us? Any parting shots? Any shout outs? Things you'd like to say or make sure to get mentioned?
Make sure you post on Terry's wall your pics.
I don't know. It's 2 hours past my bedtime, so I'm trying to remember anything I want to say. But no, I normally go to bed early. Just of course, thanks to my mom, who's my biggest supporter. Thanks to Prodigy, who has made touring super easy this year, and this guy for driving. He's always driving. I don't think I've drove a mile this year.
Sweet.
So.
Sweet.
It's pretty awesome.
That is pretty great.
No, he says I drive too slow, so whatever.
Well,
yeah.
Well, we know you're not in a hurry to get to the razor store to adjust that thing on his lip, so, right?
He looks sophisticated.
Sure. That's the word we'll go with.
Yeah.
All right,
with your monocle and
yeah. Well, all right. We'll let you get to bed. Thank you guys for joining us. Yuli, thanks for the picks. Kat, congrats on another solid performance, another win, as you continue to just barrel roll through
the season,
through all of 2016. And we wish you the best of luck and safe travels, and don't lose any passports.
Okay. See you guys. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And some people say that I give Yuli a hard time, that I give him too hard of a time. I don't know. I think I'm pretty soft on him.
You know, he brings it upon himself.
He kind of does.
The haircuts, the facial hair, the pics, constantly with that guy.
He's just asking for it. So again, safe travels to both of them as they head over to Michigan. They're going to go not quite right past us, but just a few miles south of us. They'll probably stay on I-80 actually all the way through Illinois and head over into Michigan. So we wish them the best of luck over there. I was talking to Kat during the round, and I know she's super stoked to get to the tournament and hang out with Wagner, as she talked about, really good friends. And Michigan's got some great golf, as we know. I'm really curious to know how the new courses and all of that shakes out.
They're playing, someone said they're playing Addison Oaks.
Okay, which some used to call
Add some strokes. And
clever.
Yeah, I know. And another course. So clearly Addison Oaks is a tough course. Or at least it used to be when they called it that. So I'll be curious. That's so weird not to have them, like, I know they played the Toboggan recently, but to not play the Monster?
Yeah, it's and it's funny. What I would say to follow that up for any Michiganders over there, it's been 10 or 12, 2000 Worlds may or may not have been the last time I played there, that's ridiculous if that's the case.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that those two courses over at Hudson Mills Metro Park, which were old school, they weren't really pay to play. They were pay to get into the park. So it's kind of a version of pay to play. But there was the original course and the Monster course.
Yep.
And those, again, were in a different day with different plastic, with different skill sets and things we'd seen differently. I would be excited to go back and just see the course. I'm not saying it's going to be super easy for me, clearly, as I'm rated lower now than I was then. But I would love to see those courses again 15 years later.
I'd love to see, because we knew, back when they added A through F or whatever, those were tight because it was overgrown. I'd love to see
relatively new.
I'd love to see what they look like now. They still had, at the time they had the unthinkable 1,025-foot hole.
Yeah, exactly.
And you had hole 18 at was it the original, the Monster, the one that went over the creek?
That was kind of a big question mark.
Yeah, it looked like
hole.
a big question mark hole. And just I remember thinking, like, oh my God, how do you go for this? And I would love to go back and play again.
Yeah, that's
we should go play like the No Foolin' 40, which is probably
back in those days. So good times. At one point, there was more than once that I was accused or questioned. Oh, well, you live here in Michigan, right? Because that's how frequently we used to go over to Michigan to play in different tournaments. Larry LeBond, LLK Zoo, the MDGO, the entire series. There was the Can-Am series.
Remember?
The Lamp series, the Lake Michigan Players series. So I had spent, me a little more than you, but I had spent a ton of time in Michigan.
Yeah.
Basically, the rule was if there wasn't an event in Wisconsin, we'd travel to Michigan to play because there was always one there. And then as I got a little older, I said, well, if there's not an event in Wisconsin, I'll just run one and play in it. So I did that eventually, but lots of good times over in Michigan throughout the years. A lot of good golf, as there still is today. So, and of course, your host of the Amateur Nationals, USAM Nats. So, all right, Johnny, I'm going to look through any kind of list in terms of information that I have. Do you got anything that we should be talking about?
No, but 85% of the people have Ricky picked for the Greater Hartford Open.
Now, can they change? Maybe this will do a little PSA.
Yeah.
They can change picks on the site right now?
Anybody that's signed up to play Skip Ace Fantasy Disc Golf, you can go out and change it up until literally midnight the night before the event. It's about midnight when it locks down.
Okay.
And I've had people complain like, well, how come I can't change it at 8 a.m.?
I was going to say,
it's a time zone thing. Like, it's just easier to say.
Is that midnight Central?
It's like, it might be midnight West, East Coast. I don't know. Either way, the minute wherever the servers are, switch over. It might be 1 a.m. for all I know. All I know is that it's at least 8 to 10 hours before the event starts.
Correct.
So just because of time zones and things like that.
Yeah, it makes sense to have it cut the night before so
correct.
that, again, that's giving you 6-8 hours is the only difference. So
exactly. So no, I don't really have anything else. I'm looking at the events that happened this past weekend.
Well, while you do that, real quickly, I do want to follow up our wonderful listeners in Ronald Harkey as well as Scott Linthicum. You were our winners for the Drawbreakers last week. I have just recently push your information over to Discraft, so they'll get those sent out again. Any holdup or delay was on my end, but I have now already done it and passed your information on. So thank you guys for listening. Thanks for winning last week. You're ineligible for the next few drawings, but just wanted to let you know I got your info and I passed it on. It was more recent that I did it for you. So just passing that on for everyone.
Yeah, there weren't really any other major events happening. There were no. There was an AM A tier, so I don't think we're going to get into any of the details about some of these other events happening.
Okay, well, I will somewhat further expand real quickly, though, on the Beaver State Fling. Of course, huge shout-outs. I'll start with a few of those. First and foremost, it has to start with our fellow Smashy in Zoe Andike. Zoe was a huge help in helping me arrange a little bit of my on-site travel. In fact, I'll just say she lent me her car, which I don't know if I don't know if that's always a good idea, but she lent me her car for the weekend, which just provided me with everything that I needed. She actually had me stay at her cousin's place, who I've seen more recently than she has. She hasn't seen her cousin in roughly 12 years, but I spent the weekend hanging out at his house and
That's weird.
And their family. No, it wasn't that weird. A couple little kids running around. So thank you to Gabe and Jenna for the hospitality. Nice big bed, and which I only got about 3 hours of each night. I wish I had so much more, but I had a workspace there, and I got to come and go as I pleased, and it was like within 15 minutes of the course. I was really, really hooked up. So thank you so much to Zoe. And then I have to echo what everyone else says. Thank you, of course, to the Jeffs for putting on such an amazing event. Everybody talks about Beaver State Fling, about having it on your bucket list. They have to do a lottery system just to get into the event, and rightfully so, because it's just such a magical place to be. I felt like I got my fill a little bit when I was there for Pro Worlds in 2014, but to go back and to be able to experience Beaver State in its true Beaver State Fling capacity was just as amazing as Worlds was, if not more. So that shout out to the Jeffs. Shout out to Keen. They are sponsors of myself, and they want to support Smashbox. They want to support the Disc Golf Guy video blogs, and they obviously were the presenting sponsor along with Next Adventure Outdoors. So thank you to all you guys who were part of it, and thanks to the PDGA for hosting the national tour event and doing everything you did, Downs and Gregoire and the rest of the staff that helps make that event all take place. So I could thank 1,000 people all night long, but it's a truly amazing event. I can't say enough about it. And congrats again. We said it at the top of the show. Central Coast, who was out there killing it. They had a ton of people out there running around. On our end, it was just me and Joe on our end doing the one card but 2 camera coverage on the various groups that we selected. But Central Coast was running around with a gaggle of people. I don't know, how many is a gaggle? Gaggle of people?
I don't know.
We'll say a gaggle. They were running around with a gaggle of people doing all sorts of stuff, putting out some great videos. So congrats to them and Philo and the Albatross and all the stuff we talked about, the other stuff. Disc Golf Nerd, yes, thank you. It was nice meeting you. So I met a few people out there. We had some little love and support, which we love seeing. Fine Smashy and Disc Golf Guy vlog watcher had purchased lunch for me one of the days. So it was
that's what we tell them to do.
Yeah.
We say if you can't can't support and you see Terry, if you don't want to support financially with donations and stuff like that, just buy a lunch when you see one of us.
For sure.
It's always nice. It's
and
always appreciated.
Last but not least, and this is definitely important as well, is Drew Gibson at the 11th hour stepped up and said he wanted to help support the vlogging effort for the weekend. So if you could do me a favor, go out and purchase yourself a Drew Gibson Signature Series item like a felon or a judge. You can find them on dynamicdisc.net.
One of my favorite logos, the Drew Gibson logo.
Exactly. So a lot of people, and some people had questioned, like, why am I seeing this weird little head or face logo on some of the hole bugs? It was because Drew he'd stepped up and said, I want to support what you're doing. Money out of his own pocket. It didn't come from DD or otherwise, just out of his own pocket. He said, I want to support you. And I said, well, the least I can do is obviously turn around and we want people to buy those felons and those judges. So Please go out and do it. Tell them that you saw it on the Disc Golf Guy video blogs. Buy 1 or 10 of them, and maybe he'll continue to support me more. So Thanks. It's pretty cool to have one of the people I'm ultimately filming say, hey, how can we support you?
That's very cool.
And so that's exactly what Drew did. So thank you so much to Drew. Ronald clarified, a gaggle is a flock of geese. All right, well, Central Coast isn't a flock of geese, but
No.
I thought a gaggle could be a little bit more generic.
I'm sure
like you say, a herd, and and I know there's different herds and prides and all these other things. I don't know, but I thought a gaggle could be. Okay, so it's a flock of geese that are not in flight.
A gaggle is greater than or equal to 5 geese. A gaggle is also equal to 85-pound bags of salt.
What? What? Who thinks of that?
I don't know. Apparently Wikipedia. And so basically you just called CCDG a bunch of bags of salt. How the numb nice of you. I'm sure Ian will reach out to us.
Definitely start rage tweeting. Speaking of rage tweeting, I had to have it out with my boys over at boys and girls over at Spirit Airlines. Don't bother sponsoring our show. We don't need your poor service or your poor.
Wow. I thought this was going to be after show stuff.
Okay, we'll talk about some of that. I got some other good stuff in the after show. We'll get to that, though.
Oh, and for those of you that care, last week, Nate did make some picks with us.
Thank you.
And he ended up scoring 3 points. So he had picked Ricky, Macbeth, and Sexton. He had Sexton to win.
Yes.
Actually.
Yep.
And so he had just mixed up the order, basically. He had a pretty good week as far as number of people he hit, just all in the wrong order. So Nate ended up getting 3 points.
All right.
For those of you keeping track at home.
Somebody was. We're not going to keep track of any more of Nate's points unless he goes out and submits them himself. But he was in studio, so when you step inside the Smash Box, those are things you got to do.
It's part of the studio rules.
Yes. We should. Do we have any other studio rules currently other than not starting on time? Is there any other rule that we're following these days?
No.
Okay. We should come up with some. Post them to the wall.
We'll have it like on the walls. You walk down the stairs, kind of like how Notre Dame has to hit the thing, and then maybe it's Michigan. I'm not a college football person, but we'll have that for Smashbox Studios.
That's a good call.
So
I think we should definitely do that. We need a little on-air signal for the non-audience we have.
I know. I've actually thought about that. Unfortunately, we're on late enough where my kids are in bed and my wife is gone.
Yeah. Okay. I'll leave it there. And some people saying that they love the logo. It was great. Again, go out and buy 1 or 2 discs each, times 10 or 20 of you. It'll go a longer way than you think. It was really great of him to do that. So, well, Johnny, I think we can in fact wrap this up. It's been, oh my God, how has it already been 2.5 hours?
Well, it's just how we roll. I mean, it's not a DOS episode. It's not a long one like we had last week, but we're working on it.
Okay, well, it's been a good one. What has it been? Podcast 892? Well, here we go. We're going to wrap it up. So, for Gavin, Rathbun, along with Paul and Kat, we'd like to thank you guys for joining us. We'd like to thank Dana for inexplicably not showing her contacting. I'm guessing something serious happened, so we hope everything's well on your side, Dana. Hopefully the kids and the kid and the family, everything's good. So for all of you guys, for everyone we talked about, all the Beaver State Fling people and then some, and Discraft over at AmNats. Great job by you guys a couple weeks ago. For Johnny V and myself, you just watched episode 92. We look forward to seeing you guys. When you stick around in the after show, we'll see you when you step inside the Smash Box. What? Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Hello, everyone. This is the Smashbox TV Disc Golf Podcast After Show.
This is where things get real.
I don't know if we can use that line, though.
No, Bobby keeps it real.
Oh.
We can get real.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that. Or
I mean, it's not what I want.
Or on the nightly show, they say keeping it 100.
The nightly show?
Yeah, with Larry Wilmore.
I never watch it.
Oh,
I think I've seen it once.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah, he's the after Jon Stewart.
I'm gonna go on record. I'm gonna start right into it right now.
Go for it.
I don't know if it's his delivery or if it's his content, but I feel like there's a lot of awkward pauses and silences during that show where there's supposed to be laughter.
Maybe. I don't have cable. I think I watched it a couple times back in the day, but I wouldn't. I'm sure the numbers can justify it. after Jon Stewart left, I think that whole time period just plummeted. Like including
Correct.
Wilmore and including Noah Trevor, who I think is okay. He's not nearly what Jon Stewart was, but
no.
so I'll be curious to see if Jon Stewart comes back, because I think he was a genius in as far as that type of thing goes. And I do like the Samantha Bee. She's very funny.
Her new show.
Her new show.
Okay.
So
I can't say I've seen too much of that. Is it Full Frontal or
Full
something
Frontal.
like that?
Yeah, it's weekly.
Yeah, I can't say I've seen too much of it. I'm a big fan of her typically, but yeah, Nightly or whatever it's called with Larry Wilmore. I like him, and I really liked him while he was on the Daily Show. I don't find him. I don't know. I don't think he's that funny. I'm not as well-rounded or educated as he is, but especially when it comes to world economics and politics. But I feel like he doesn't do anything special to keep that show going.
Yeah.
It's just, I watched it just last night, and Anyway. All right. So we ended the previous podcast as I was just expressing a little frustration and disappointment in dealing with Spirit Airlines.
I didn't even know you took Spirit Airlines.
I did.
They are like, from my understanding, they are the bare bones, low cost.
They are.
You might actually have to push that plane to get it going, is from what I'm understanding.
So their shtick, their spiel is that you aren't, when you're taking other airlines, you're not really getting anything free. You're ultimately paying for it all. So in theory, it's almost like an a la carte mentality.
Yeah.
If you want drinks, you want soda or water or beer or peanuts, you want anything on the plane, you pay for it. Okay. Yeah. They also really get at you with the baggage. And I've been torn because I've been really spoiled or cheap, and in using Southwest, I'm a big fan of Southwest. They go to a lot of places I need to go to right out of Milwaukee or out of Midway in Chicago.
Yep.
And of course, they include 2 free bags,
so
again, free, I guess, is a relative term.
If Southwest ever wants to sponsor us, we'd be more than happy to take.
I include them on my tweets and shout out to them all the time.
I love Southwest.
Johnny loves them. I love you more. Yeah. Working on that companion flyer frequent A+ membership.
That's right.
Oh yeah, we love you, Southwest. I took Southwest to get out there.
Yep, but you took Spirit to get back?
But I took Spirit to get back simply because, again, the timing and the price. So I booked a flight that was a red eye on Saturday or on Sunday night, and you want to check, and again, maybe I'm just so spoiled and used to Southwest, but when you wanted to check a single bag, if you check it ahead early, I want to say it was $40. If you check it in at the gate, or I'm sorry, if you check it in at check-in when you get there, it's $50, or if you have to check it at the gate, it's $100. I mean, they're really trying to emphasize and penalize you for not planning ahead. I can spin it that way.
Sure.
I understand that. But even like your carry-on bags, they're really particular about your carry-on bags and how much they cost. And if you can bring them or not. Like, you can bring one tiny little bag with you, but anything outside of that, you also have to pay for.
As I think it should be.
And that's fine. Again,
Personally.
Maybe some of my complaining in the baggage area comes from the fact that I've been really spoiled by using Southwest quite frequently. However, to talk about Southwest, there's times you could go out and buy a Southwest ticket. Let's just say it's $162 to travel somewhere, and you book it. You go back out there 36 hours before your flight, and they're running some crazy unannounced special or sale, and it's now down to $57. All you have to do is call in, and they will credit you back the difference.
Yeah, they're very good customer service.
That's amazing. No other airline that I know of does that the way they do, and that's amazing. So they'll credit you back the difference. If you go out and you just stay on it, and I do this all the time. I book a flight, and then every few days or once a week or twice a week, I'll go back out to the site and just see, maybe my exact flight might be cheaper. If it's as little as $10 cheaper, you can just call in, and they will just credit your account to $10.
Very cool.
Which, I
so
think
what
is
was
great.
So ultimately, what was your problem?
So
with Spirit?
my biggest problem, besides when I got there, the guy at the front desk was less than helpful, because apparently I should have went to my own self-serving check-in kiosk and then went up to him to hand him my luggage. There was no indicator of this.
Okay.
I walked up to him. There was no line late at night. I walked up to him. He just acted like he really didn't want to help me. And then I was like, I finally just said, I'm new to this. What are you telling me to do? So he gets done checking in my bag, which I've prepaid for. And he's like, then go over there and get your ticket. I'm like, so I'm talking to you now, but you want me to go over there to check in with nobody behind me? You want me to go somewhere else and print out my ticket? You can't just do that? He's like, no, just go over there. And I think he could do that. I think he just didn't want to do that.
Okay.
Whatever. So I go get that. Whatever. I go up to security. I'll keep saying whatever. I go up to security and I just mosey right in. There's a nice big line there. I'm like, it's Sunday night. I'm cutting it a little close. There's a big line. I'll walk right through the TSA pre, right where I belong, because I went through that hassle.
Yeah.
Paid for it.
Deservedly.
A-okay by the government. I'm good to go. I've used it at least a dozen times. It's already paid for itself. And what does the guy tell me? I'm like, I don't see my pre number on here. Usually it says TSA pre on it. He's like, who are you flying with? I'm like, Spirit? He's like, yeah, it's not on there. They don't do that. What do you mean they don't do that? They don't take a number and print it on a piece of paper for me? Like, that's all they need to do. Well, I'm sure there's other stuff, but ultimately they need to put
Would it require one more person?
I have no idea. I wouldn't think so.
I don't know.
I don't run their operations. I think very few people do, because when I tweeted to them, you get an auto retweet that says, hey, we don't have a big social media team. We're saving you money in other places.
Sure.
We'll get back to you. Yeah, you'll get back to me all right.
Well,
so
now you know.
So I've gone through the hassle of paying and the cost of paying for TSA pre, but when I get to an airport that I've never been to before or don't know this, and I'm standing in the TSA pre line, they just tell me, oh, yeah, they don't do that.
Can't do it for that airline. Well,
somebody else tweeted me back saying there's one other airline, which I'm going to then avoid, saying that they don't either. And I asked the security checkpoint guy, I said, why wouldn't they be part of the program? He's like, I don't know. So then when I went through the line, I asked...
It probably cost them some money somehow.
At some point somewhere it might.
And
sure.
They're passing that savings on to you.
By making me stand in line for an extra half an hour.
Doesn't cost them a thing.
It's going to cost them my business. So yes, it does.
Well, it's fine.
So I asked 2 more TSA-related people. I said, can you tell me a reason why somebody wouldn't be part of the program? And nobody had a good answer. And maybe they're bound to not rip on me, or rip on them.
Maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't know all the details of the back end. Or maybe they don't care. Maybe they're thinking, dude, it's like midnight. Just get out of my face.
I'd get out of your face quicker if you just check me. So now I have to take out 2 laptops. I have to take all this other stuff out of my bag. I have to take my shoes off. I have to do all these things I just wasn't planning on doing. And I don't want to sound like some big spoiled, big disc golf rich traveler, because I'm not. But I had to do all these other things that I wasn't planning on doing because I couldn't go through TSA pre, which I've paid for.
Yeah, well.
So Spirit, on multiple levels, you suck. I don't know if that's a direct quote, but...
I think it's on the side they're playing.
On
multiple levels, we suck.
So they finally they did tweet me back and say, oh, we want to hear about your problem. Well, I filled out their customer service survey telling them everything I just told you. And then a separate tweet came in saying, oh, we'll follow up with you tomorrow. We'd like to hear about this. So,
all right. That sucks.
Yeah, Spirit sucks. All right. Their Spirit sucks. And my Spirit sucked when I got there. I was in line and I was already mad about the plane. That's not how you want to start off your night.
No. So there was a small hubbub on social media.
I've got something else to rage about later. Go on.
Okay, well let's get into this first. And I wish kind of I would have brought this up with Paul, and maybe even Kat, seeing as how this. There is no defined standard in the PDGA.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure for playoff conditions.
Okay.
Chuck Kennedy brought it up.
Okay.
In the board, saying, there's recommendations, of course. Would we be better off going to a 3-hole playoff system as opposed to a 1-hole? What happens when hole 1 is a random hole, which is what most people use for playoffs, is a hugely righty or lefty favorable hole.
Okay. Versus
playing, hole 18, which is a hugely other favorable. And most, I won't just say most, I'll say every event I've ever been to, I've never seen anywhere in writing what happens in a playoff.
I have.
I personally have not. Okay, if there's a playoff, we go to hole 1 versus if there's a playoff, we go to hole 18 versus the closest hole to the tournament central, which may be 15.
Correct. Or in this case, to further your point, the women finished on 18 and then went right to 1. It's right there. Everybody's there. Blah, blah, blah. Very logical. The Masters, Kenny and those guys, they started on hole 10. They played 10 all the way through 9. So when they went to the playoff hole, even though it was way out in the middle of nowhere, they went right to hole 10, which was, again, their first hole during the previous round. So that just furthers your point. I agree.
And so Chuck brings up, like, should there maybe be a standard that says something along the lines of, and there's this a really long thread, and I haven't read it all. I've read basically the first one, what Chuck brought up there. Should we go to a standard 3-hole playoff starting at, let's say, hole 1? Or the hole closest to the tournament central, we'll say. Because hole 1 might not be. Closest, definition closest to tournament central. So this way, there is no advantage to being a righty versus a lefty. And after 3 holes, you say at that point it becomes sudden death. Would it make it more fair if hole 1 was, as we said, hugely righty or let's say lefty friendly?
Sure.
Versus someone who like Ricky who's a phenomenal forehand. And granted, all those guys have great forehands. I'm not really worried about that. But let's just say it's an advanced division or anything like that. Should we go to something a little more set in stone? And should we go to like a 3-hole playoff system?
That's a great question, and I'll follow that up with: is this at every level?
I don't know. Good question. I mean, look at golf where there's different standards. Like sometimes they have to, if there's a tie, they have to play a whole other round.
Sure, and that's only at certain really big events,
majors and things like that. Sometimes they just go play hole 18 over and over and over.
Correct.
And sometimes they'll play 18 then 1 then 18 then, there's differences for different particular events.
So to follow up, because I knew this was somewhere in the rules, and now this is in the PDGA competition manual under tournament procedures 1.9 tiebreakers, and I'll go to point B. It states, final ties for first place in any division or for the reduction of field size must be broken by sudden death play. Mm-hmm. Sudden death play shall begin with hole number 1 unless a different hole or series of holes is designated by the tournament director prior to the start of the tournament.
Okay.
So I agree. It doesn't clearly define exactly what it should be, but this is definitely framework.
Correct. There's a framework. This
is a guideline or an outline that I knew existed. I just had to find it.
Let's just say this.
Did Chuck reference that at all? I would think he would.
I believe he did. And,
okay.
We are at. I'm trying to think of a good course. Let's just make up a course. You're at a course where hole 9 is like right next to Tournament Central. You. Particularly your TD, you haven't said anything about playoffs.
Yep.
When the playoff comes, do you send them across the course to hole 1, or do you just say, "Oh, here's hole 9, start here and go"?
Well,
without even thinking about it, not realizing, or maybe not even thinking about the actual rules, saying, "Oh, you should start on hole 1 because hole 1 is a 15-minute hike for these 2 or 3 guys." In theory, you should be sending them to hole 1. But hole 9 is right next to you.
No, you to use a great example, I was just thinking of, is Ledgestone was that way last year. Hole 1 was literally thousands of feet away, whereas everyone finished where they had actually finished, and they had a great hole to start the final 9, but hole 1 in itself was on the other side of the park and was a 200-foot hole. The first hole they played was this gorgeous par 3.5, 600-foot over water, or do you send them thousands of feet away to a 200-foot hole?
Yeah.
So that would be a real-world situation that could have potentially happened at Ledgestone last year.
I'm just thinking, I kind of like the idea of a 3-hole playoff, and then at that point, sudden death. If you're still tied after 3 holes, if you've taken par, birdie, at that point it becomes, all right, boys, we ain't got all night. Let's get her done. But at least 3 holes gives you a small sampling of the different types of the course, because what if it's a 400-foot tunnel shot that fades to the right as opposed to hole 2, which is a 250-foot wide open island shot or something. I kind of personally like the idea, out of fairness, we'll say, of a shorter 3-hole playoff. I don't mind how it is now. I just thought it was a really interesting concept that I hadn't ever really thought about.
Well, I certainly see the point, and one could argue, and we'll use Beaver State's kind of sort of, but not really a good kind of sort of an example. Beaver State's final hole, for the women at least, was this huge turnover shot for a righty. So it's a big left to right hole.
Mm-hmm.
And then hole 1 is ultimately straight with a slight finish to the left. So it kind of goes the other way. I mean, it ultimately finishes with a hyzer, sorta. I mean, you really just want straight shots. I mean, it's just, if you really want to think about the fairness issue, and I'm not saying I disagree with it, but the fairness issue is like just the hole they played before to maybe force the playoff could have really favored one person over another anyway.
Yeah, but everybody plays that hole. That's part of the course.
Sure.
Where you finish shouldn't matter, but deciding an additional number of holes is much different.
Oh, so Yuli says Cat and Page did a playoff at the Ledgestone, and I hate to say it, but I'm trying to recall. Oh, because I think we were out on the course, so maybe I didn't see it.
Yeah, I don't believe we
maybe
saw it.
Yuli can chime in with exactly where they started, because I would doubt they walked all the way to the other side of the course, which literally was like a half mile away.
Did they play the sand hole as the playoff?
I think they might have actually. Now I'm getting confused.
I'm a little confused.
Too much golf in my head.
So
Paul can chime in, and Paul, we'd love to hear your opinion if you want to chime in quickly as to if you think 3-hole playoff should happen or not. I know USDGC, one of the most epic battles of all time, known as the Battle.
Yep.
It was Kenny and Barry, and they continually played 18, 17, and 1. 18, 17, and 1. And that makes for a perfect loop. All three are very dramatic holes where anything can happen.
Yeah, they started on the volleyball court hole. So the sand hole. That's exactly what I was saying.
Okay. So that is something that's certainly interesting.
And obviously USDGC is USDGC. I don't know. There's something. I think there'd be something kind of cool about a 3-hole playoff. Now, I think it adds maybe a little bit more drama
or time.
And I know, understand time. Clearly, that's there's differences with time of the year when your event ends. If it's November and you're ending at 5:00, 5:30 might be sunset.
True.
So
and how would that be? You make a great point. You're at a B tier,
but you're playing. Each competitor is playing the course as is. Whatever. I understand that, but and maybe there is a different standard for the different tier events. I just think it's something to chew on. I don't know if they're even thinking about changing it. I'd have to go through the thread. I just kind of saw it and I was like, oh wow, that's an interesting take.
Well, it really is. And then not being a huge sports fanatic, but I think you look back to some of the other, you look at a few of the other sports, and I don't think team sports versus individual sports is definitely a consideration. But you look at obviously, your hockeys and what their format is versus what soccer does versus what football does. I mean, they're all, and then you go to the basketball and they're playing a whole quarter no matter what, and obviously scoring, all that stuff factors in. It would be interesting to hear a debate for one side versus another.
I mean, obviously look at football where they had first score wins. Now it's, hey, if it's a field goal, the other team gets a chance. In hockey, they go to extra time or maybe another quarter, and then if that doesn't go, I think they go to a shootout. I don't know if it's different in the playoffs. I don't know. Soccer, the refs make up a number and give you time. Oh look, we're just gonna keep playing. No, I'm just kidding, soccer fans out there. But it's different. It seems like, and I'm a believer in this in football too, that I think it should just be a time, or not even necessarily time. Each team gets one possession. That's it. Each team gets. I don't care if you score a touchdown. I don't care if you score a field goal. I don't care if you get a safety. Well, safety would be different because the possession changes. But each team should get a possession, regardless of what the other team does, and if that continue that way. But that's my feeling. Obviously, it's way different. There's a ton of different factors to do with football as far as physicality of the game and whatnot.
Well, and the various scoring that can happen, and different amount of points that can be earned.
But I would love to see some sort of three-hole system come out of this.
John chimes in on the board saying, when I watched the 3-way playoff at the Nick Hyde in person, I was a little disappointed after the playoff only lasted 1 hole. Well, I think we all know that Simon wasn't disappointed. I mean,
not at all.
I guess just take it one step further and say, you walk up to the first hole of the playoff and you ace, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I got 1 or 2 strokes going to the next hole. Like,
Yeah.
and I know that's a really extreme case, but it's kind of funny when you.
But think about this then.
Does that provide more or less opportunity to drag things out? Because
if you mean if someone aces?
no, not the ace. Sorry, the 3 holes. There's no statistical analysis, I'm sure, of course, but I'm saying after 3 holes, do you think they're more likely to be tied or less likely to be tied versus 1?
Yeah, that's a great. Well, and that's a great question. I don't know.
Because I feel like, and I say that I feel like, by that, obviously the 3rd hole, are you down 1? Are you down 2? Or whatever? That totally changes up your
agree.
game plan.
It almost becomes a match play event where like I'm down by 1
exactly,
and guess what? I see that Simon is parked for his deuce. He's 8 feet away. I'm 40 or 50 or 60 feet away with a drop off afterwards. Now, if this is the final hole of the playoff, I'm running that like a madman. And
of course,
if it's a 1 hole playoff, I'm running it like a madman. If it's my 2nd hole, I'm laying that up, hoping to get to a 3rd hole.
Exactly.
Or going to a 3rd hole. It changes things up.
That's exactly my point.
Yep.
It totally changes the dynamics.
It can, but it obviously depends on the different holes and the structure of the course and things like that. So,
well, I'll and this kind of goes, and it wasn't a playoff situation yet, but as I was watching Kat and Paige play this weekend, again, when I caught them, Kat was struggling on hole 15. I want to get my holes right. It was hole 15. She was struggling. I think she had an errant tee shot. She had no shot for her 2nd shot. She threw. She was just really struggling. Paige was, I'll say, 45 or so feet away. And without even thinking about it, she walked up and just threw her putter under the basket. And it wasn't a treacherous drop off.
Yeah.
It wasn't, she didn't have a crazy backdrop. She just flat out did not run it. And I think at the time, this was prior to Kat making a really solid putt, I think Paige was she was just throwing under the basket thinking, I'm picking up 1 or 2 strokes on here with 2 or 3 holes to play. And so at that point, she just completely laid it up. I think any given other situation, she's running that putt like you normally would try to make that. And she just laid it up. It was really interesting to see because then she ultimately gave away a stroke on the next hole and a stroke on the next hole. And the Kat fought back and it was this great battle. Anyway, it was just interesting to see that. And you got to wonder, do you play 17 or 18? Are those played any differently thinking, okay, if I'm just tied, I know I have 3 more holes, and I know 2 out of those 3 are forehand friendly.
Maybe.
I mean, there's so much.
It adds a different dimension, as opposed to I think what a lot of times maybe players do is I don't know what's going to happen for this playoff. I bet you a lot of the players don't know when they go to a playoff that they're going to go to whether they're going to go to hole 1, whether they're going to go back and play hole 18. I bet you the TD maybe hadn't even thought about it, possibly.
Yeah, and it probably depends on the event, and I think it also depends on...
I would hope that the major events have already thought this out, but your local B tier, your tournament director who maybe isn't as experienced, I don't know.
Well, I think experience comes into play, because for me, at every event I run, I know exactly where I'm going to put them, but I've probably run an event there, and I know the course.
Sure.
But what again, I'm always just assuming also that it's hole 1.
Yep.
For me, it's just assume that it's going to be hole 1, and
I always assume it's the hole closest to the tournament central.
And I think about let's just say the women started on hole 14, and so obviously they're ending on 13. I would never think, okay, well, you're going back out to 14.
No, you'd start. I would think, let's just say 1. Your next TD's tournament central is next to 1. You send them to 1.
Correct.
I mean, because honestly, to me, it doesn't matter where you start.
Well, you just if you're saying it's only sudden death, then it does, because you just said
it
favors 1 hole.
No, I'm not saying for sudden death.
Where you started the last
where you
round.
started the round, the final round versus the playoff. Like, I don't care if you started on hole 2 or 12 or 14 for your round. The playoff obviously is up to the TD, and that would be 18 or 1 or whatever's closest to tournament central. That's kind of the way I always looked at it. Like, oh, he's not going to make me walk halfway around the course. He's going to make me play tournament central hole.
And frequently, to follow that point up, more often than not, tournament central is generally near hole 1.
Agreed.
But not all the time.
But not all the time.
Yeah. So it's
Think about we'll just throw Plowman Park would be a good example. Your Tournament Central is probably not by hole 1. It's probably off over by hole 14 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So interesting. It's an interesting debate that I figured people would
I
get a
believe,
kick out of.
and that's where I think I've seen it posted, and I feel like I believe I've seen it for USDGC.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they're an event that's run for 14, 15, 16 years.
Yep.
They've had all the best in the world come through there. They have, this massive staff. And when you run one major event on one piece of property for that many years, you have almost everything dialed in that you really can and should. But you're right. Not all the other events, have it all buttoned up like the way they do. So,
yeah, because USDGC makes sense that you play 1, 17, 18, 1, 17, 18.
Or did they not start with 18 last when it was McRae, Schustrick, and Macbeth?
I thought they did 18, but
I think they went back to 18. And again, not every course is blessed to have 3 pretty dynamic holes. One isn't as crazy. It's clearly kind of a birdie or die hole.
But do you are you, if you're Jared Roan, do you want to play 18 against Yuli as a lefty?
You mean Devin Owens?
Or Devin Owens, yeah, sorry, not Jared. Devin Owens.
I don't know what Jared, does he have a disadvantage I don't know about?
He's missing a finger. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Devin Owens. If you're Devin Owens, you're thinking, okay, that first shot might favor me because I'm playing into the hill.
Sure.
But after that, Paul's got a huge advantage because that goes way left.
And we could all argue all day. I mean, even hole 1 doesn't favor, certainly favors a righty with the way that the hole fades.
I agree. And, even if you played 17, technically that might favor a lefty bailing out. Just saying that would change your mentality knowing that, oh God, if you're Jared thinking like, I don't want to play 18 in a playoff.
Yeah.
Maybe I run at hole 18 harder during the regular round so I don't have to play this gosh darn hole again, versus thinking like, okay, I'm going to get a 3-hole playoff. I'm not going to run hard. I'm going to, I'll be content with the tie if that's what it comes down to.
On a quick side note, Yuli's chimed in privately, which I can share, saying eating contests have made the Sports Center top 10. Of course, the winning moment of the World Championships will. So Yuli's still on that. And I got to say, I'm way more in Yuli's camp on this one than I am in yours. So
I already staked my claim.
We shall.
I'm fine with that.
We shall see. There's a lot of good, funny ways that they can could end playoffs. I think the real key is if it's not standardized, which is fine. I don't know that it has to be yet. It should be publicly announced and followed through. Because I'll admit, sure, the competition manual says you should go to hole 1 unless otherwise stated. There's hundreds of tournaments that will take place this year. Yeah, that will probably end in a tie for some division, and they won't go to hole 1.
No.
And somebody could contest that probably. No, but they won't go to hole 1.
How do you feel about, let's just say it's a 2-man race. The 2 competitors finish on hole 15. They know they're tied. They just say, you know what? Rather than walk back to Tournament Central, let's start on 16. Let's play 16
until it's done.
Do you have a problem with that, or because assuming that there's no one that sneaks up on them, blah blah blah. They are fairly certain that they've dominated the division. Do you, as a TD, have a problem with that? Or do you think, okay, you guys are adults, you made that decision, as long as you both, or
assuming they were both okay with it,
or at some point does the guy who loses say, well, that I might have lost, but I would rather play hole 1 now.
Yeah,
that's the.
No, and in fact, that scenario somewhat played out when we were at Colebrook Park in Michigan a few years ago. A couple friends that I knew were there. They battled it out. They must have been on the leader card at the time, and they thought it just came down to those 2, and they ultimately had a playoff, all just to find out somebody from another card. But they conducted their own playoff. They didn't go to the TD. It was a daylight issue and everything else. So they just conducted their own playoff, what they thought was their own playoff, and somebody else ultimately came out and jumped them, so it didn't matter. But it was funny to hear, like, oh, good thing you guys played it off. It doesn't matter. So
yeah.
And that can be a concern. I feel like if they do a playoff, obviously, if they do a playoff and then someone comes in from the second card and ultimately ties them, well, then their previous playoffs null and void.
Null and void, of course.
So I think there could be something along those lines. So, yeah, certainly a good question, and yeah, I think the TDs should do their best to be diligent about stating if a playoff needs to happen, where will it happen?
If I ever run an event and there's a playoff, 3-hole playoff. Stating it right now.
And I think that's great. I don't have a problem with doing
I know you
that.
don't.
I think people, there's nothing wrong with declaring that.
More fun.
The question is, do you say it's like hole 1, then hole 9, and then hole like 13, like some stupid loop that makes them walk a ton?
Well, no, I wait to see who's in the playoff, and I pick my favorite guy, and I'm like, oh, I know you're way better. I'm going to pick this guy to win.
Yeah.
No, I would say 1 through 3 is pretty solid on any course, probably.
Maybe.
I mean,
not out at Silver Fox, the course I run, Gray Fox. 1 through 3 is, I mean, it is what it is, but it puts you way out in the middle of nowhere at that point.
I know.
I think that kind of sucks because now you may lose the potential for any spectators or people that want to cheer them on or whatever, and now they're out in the middle of nowhere 3 holes later.
I've got no problem with that. 1 through 3, I think is a pretty. It's 1/6 of the course. I mean, you're playing I think
1 through 3. Let me just tell you, 1 through 3 at Beaver State Fling.
Sure.
Oh my God, that's 600 and 600. It's 2 600-footers along with a Poke and Hope. I think that's the official title of that hole.
The whole Poke and Hope.
Poke and Hope. You literally are a quarter mile away from Tournament Central, and no one can then see that 3rd hole. That's what I was talking to Katrina about.
Sure.
No one, you couldn't even spectate the hole.
Sure. And I'm not going to be doing Beaver State. Don't worry. But no, I think a 3-hole playoff. And again, if I ever run an event, or if I have to, take over an event that you run or something of that nature, we'll pick, whatever the 3 closest holes are that are relatively spectator friendly, I suppose. But it will be a 3-hole playoff. I think I've made that determination in my head.
All right. Well, Joel, who was the fine gentleman, I didn't mention his name, but Joel was the fine gentleman who bought me lunch on Saturday. I appreciate it again, buddy. He said, I like his idea. He says, if a tie happens, Smashbox gets the trophy and the first place funds.
I'm fine without even the trophy. I mean, it'd be cool to have a whole bunch of trophies from people who didn't get them, but
I already do that.
I know you do.
PGA US Open is an 18-hole playoff the next day, and I think someone said it earlier.
It's
that's the only
one.
event that does that, and that's not practical in disc golf. These guys have to get on the road to the next tournament on the other side of the country. Paul won on that hole last year, Terry. I didn't see it because I can't really get in there. Really, it was hole 3 that he won? Oh, it was hole 3 of the other course. On the East course, correct. Hole 3 on the West course, again, there's hardly enough room for the players, let alone somebody trying to spectate that hole. And it would be funny because somebody could win that hole with a 5 while their pro competitor takes a 6, and it's only 300 feet. There's just a lot of trees and a hillside. So most PGA playoffs are play 18, then 17 and 18, then 16, 17, and 18. So, there's 18 at a PGA event is obviously always the last hole.
Yep.
And it's always galleried. And I don't think that's a term, but it's always galleried up, meaning there's already
there's stands and there's everything, because golf, very few times do you have a hole that's not spectator friendly. Any hole on the course these. I mean, that's just the way their sport is versus ours. So what other things did you want to get into? You had some other, I don't know if it goes as far as say rants.
Yeah, I don't know. Do any of our smashies remember? I know when there was a while when I had gone off on a few weekends and a few weeks in a row. There was some terminology. Somebody once said it was T-Dog Unleashed, but there was some terminology out there at one part. But here is what I found. I'll go as far as saying a little bit comical. In what they posted. I had posted a video.
Should we make this a regular segment? Like,
we talked about that.
Silly comments on Terry's videos?
No.
Not the rant thing. Like,
no.
Hey.
Yeah, we could.
Dumbass of the week.
Yeah, no, we could. Here is, and we all know, clothing and style is completely subjective and personal to every individual.
I'm going to go with late 80s Climo. That's what I think everybody should wear.
Exactly. So here is what someone posted, which I find irony too, because when we talk about professionalism, we talk about how you dress and you look and how you feel, but then the professional image that you may put forth or put out there, So with all of that in mind, and I'm a fan of it, professional dressing, what I feel is professionally dressed in disc golf.
Yeah,
I feel it's a way to help move our sport forward.
You used to have matching shirt and pants
I
with
did.
your PDG number stitched into
I still
them.
have them somewhere. I'll bust them out for you guys.
I don't want to see that. You were much skinnier back then.
I'm just a fan of professional appearance. You want to argue about collared shirts or not? And
they were brown. You kind of look like a UPS man.
I looked
a little
good.
lighter than that.
I looked good winning tournaments in advance in that outfit. All right, so here was a comment that came in. I posted for those that didn't know already. I have out there round 3's front 9, which featured Paul McBeth, Ray Johnson, Dustin Keegan, and Tomas from overseas. So it's out there. And one of the earlier comments that came in today, and the back half will be it's ready to go. I just have to put it on YouTube. It's been ready for a while. I want to make sure that it wasn't in fact deleted because it was here a little bit earlier. I'm sorry. Okay. Here's a comment that came in that just I found humorous at best. Maisie Mackelman, something like that. His login states, referring to Paul McBeth on this video. Paul is super chill and by far the best discer out there. But damn. Dude needs some style. What's with the khakis and the tucked in shirt? No question mark. He going to teach science class after this or what? It's like he's fresh off the 1985 PGA Senior Tour.
Wow, I disagree with that. Like, I mean, you can argue that, you know, if you have khakis or not versus what his McPants, his red pants versus whatever versus black pants. I mean, I disagree. I don't think. Yeah, that's a silly statement.
They were tan in color and they were some form of Adidas outdoor performance pants.
Sure. Like triple pleats or anything.
I'm going to call that guy out. Sorry if you're smashy. I'm going to call you out and say that's just one of the most ridiculous comments I think I've ever read. Really, like he's wearing his, first of all, it's a sponsor. And one could say you could be sponsored by hippiethreads.com, whatever, but it's his Adidas Outdoors. I don't know if you've heard of them, but Adidas Outdoors, a pretty major brand in the world in sporting goods and athletics. And he's wearing performance style pants, and he's got a polo, a high performance polo with, again, his sponsor on it. And it's tucked in. That's where this guy draws the line. Is he's got a problem with his style.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on the way you look at it. Is he looking for the, you know, a pair of shorts with an untucked polo? Is he looking for the hippie threads? I don't know. You just with
basketball shorts and Birkenstocks and
maybe
some kind of rag on his head, like.
Again,
Go ahead and tell me that's one of the dumbest comments you've heard.
It's pretty dumb. It's very dumb.
Okay.
I agree because Paul is a consummate professional on the course. Looks the part, plays the part. I could never, you know, you could make the argument laughing at his big red pants. You know, you could say, gosh, you look like a clown. You look whatever. You could make anything. You could say anything you want about them. But you can't say that they're not trim, that they're not fit, that they at least.
You don't like green or khaki? I'm cool with that.
That's fine.
I'm cool with if you don't like the color choice. I don't.
Sure.
Now, if he was wearing like lime green pants with a slightly off-colored green, some other colored shirt, you might be like, okay, maybe
he's
got a color matching
or like two different size waist stripes, like up and down, like horizontal stripes on the pants and vertical stripes on the shirt.
Again, color. We'll ignore the color choices, even though they looked fine in my opinion. But the fact that you don't like the khakis and a tucked in shirt on a, as you have said, like a fit and trim person.
Yeah.
Now, me walking around in a size medium shirt tucked in, all right, you've got a real problem. I've got a real problem.
I want to see it.
No, it won't happen.
Come on.
But I'm sorry, and maybe it shouldn't bother me the way it does. I don't need to stick up for Paul McBeth. His play sticks up for himself. No one needs to defend anyone. I don't think I'm doing that. I just have to say I felt like it was one of the. I don't. Can I go as far as ignorant comments? Is that an ignorant comment? It's a matter of opinion. I understand
It's a matter
that.
of opinion. I wouldn't call it ignorant. But,
I won't call it ignorant.
But it is a comment that arguably 99.9% of the people would disagree with.
And some people went out there, and I didn't reply. I don't need to reply. I just need to bash you on my podcast.
I just need to use the weight of the internet that I have.
No, that's not what
the
I'm going
thousands
for
of people that are going to listen to this.
I just couldn't believe that was the argument this person was going to make. I guess I have to leave it about that. And here's where I find a little more, I'll say, irony. I was ripped on last year at one point or another because I was commenting on Kale Laviska wearing pants.
Correct.
And people, people ripped on me for commenting on wardrobe. Like, why are you even talking about that? Who cares? What's it matter? Why are you talking about some dude's pants?
It was unique because Kale never wears pants.
Mm-hmm.
He wears shorts almost all the time, right?
He used to, and then and then he had a reason for it, but it was insanely hot out, and he was still wearing pants.
Correct.
That's odd to me.
Or he always wears pants or something. I forget exactly what it was, but yes, whatever.
Anyway, funny stuff. So thanks for listening to my. I don't know if that's quite a rant or not, but I don't understand how that's how he needs a lesson in style. Again, put me in a medium. Put me in some size 28s or whatever that Paul probably wears, or 30s, and a medium shirt.
Wow.
Then you have a problem with style.
We're gonna
I don't even want to think about it.
Not just a problem with style. We have
style with breathing.
Well, that and we have a public problem because I don't think they're getting up that far, Tara. I think we may have an issue. That shirt better be awfully long because I know that I have a problem squeezing into 34s.
Yeah, so that's my point. I thought it was funny. That was, and of all things, that's what you're going to come to the internet with. That's the game you bring.
That is your platform right there.
Yeah, I'm going to go on the Disc Golf Guys channel, and I'm going to make sure to call it the best in the world for wearing khakis and a green shirt. So. Sorry, I think the kids would say sorry, not sorry. They're Maisie.
The kids would say
McLeman.
Delete your account. That's the phrase. Delete your account.
Yeah, bro. You don't like it? Delete the account. I'm glad you watched. I just can't agree with your stance there. I can see someone says I can see Ricky in the daily pants.
No, it would be Barsby. We've seen in the history if there's one or two people that are going to come out knowingly look slightly foolish, it's going to be Barsby and Oram. Those guys rolled together, and we saw it at the Memorial a couple years ago. The way Barsby made his entrance, and if there's somebody that's going to be out on the course knowingly
playing the part,
knowingly diving into it, it's going to be Barsby.
Yeah, he's always up for the entertainment factor as well. Nico wears some pretty crazy patterns. We've seen him out there in some in different outfits and whatnot. Again, to each their own. Style subjective. I get all that. I just and Seti says Nico had the coolest disc golf look in his opinion. So
I'll say Nico had a very unique look for a while with the high pulled up socks, the big old hair,
huge hair, kind of pushed up.
Sometimes a tie-dye-ish, polo shirt of some sort. He was easy to spot, and it was a look that it wasn't
a little bit of a branding thing too.
It was a branding. It wasn't an unprofessional look, but it was definitely unique,
and it was a little louder than
and
a lot
it
of
fit his
cohorts.
personality.
Yeah, for sure. I saw Nico this weekend, gave a little love. So for those who are worried
Didn't
about
stare you down?
No, worried about my safety or concern, Nico and I had some great conversations this weekend, and you're going to see a little video that may even show just that. So good time out there with those guys. Some say they miss Nico's huge hair. Hey, as a guy who owned Nico'sHair.com, I miss it too. He definitely was he definitely was rocking the big hair for a while.
He was
And
Sideshow Bob.
I'll give a little quick update. His traveling partner and girlfriend in Jessica Weiss is just not feeling it. You saw her maybe with an Instagram this week, throwing left-handed on a hole. She was out there kind of just practicing and playing around. She's been playing lefty a little bit more, I think, just to really soothe the desire to play disc golf, but not in a competitive fashion. Is she throwing lefty?
Sure.
She's just, her shoulder's not quite there yet.
Okay.
And so she's doesn't want to force the issue, which obviously I think is a really smart move on her part. So
Sure. And speaking of injuries, we saw Dave Felberg post something on Facebook of him in kind of a neck brace, saying that he has to wait for some of the vertebrae, I believe, to heal up.
Okay. Yep.
And then he's going to be right back at it. He's thanks to everyone who reached out to him. So hopefully, maybe not this year, because I know that some of those injuries can take a while to heal up, but, maybe he just takes the year, gets good, and then comes out next year with a vengeance.
Yeah. Obviously, Dave, one of the arguably the single most traveled disc golfer that we've seen in the last 20 years. I don't think anyone's played more events. I know people have not played more events in more countries more times than he has. So Dave's been the road warrior for many, many years, and of course we wish him the best of luck. Alan Iko or Elin Iko?
He says the term "very unique" is grammatically incorrect,
as opposed to we'll say somewhat unique.
No,
partially unique. Is it?
Well, the term "unique" means one of a kind, so you can't be very much of one of a kind. You are one of a kind. You would have to be just unique, not very unique.
Could you be somewhat unique?
I don't believe so, because
I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, because unique means one of a kind.
I get that.
You can't be kind of one of a kind, can you?
So you can only say the word unique with nothing else, no other clarifier
that's what it sounds like.
Fair enough. Well, this same gentleman who is very much correcting us said he would like to be the hair sponsor.
Awesome.
He had stated that earlier.
Now, does the hair sponsor
don't
provide product?
I was just going to say, you don't even know how much that costs.
Does he get to pick the hairstyle?
We can start with sending over $23 to terry@prodiscgolfer.com. I will be getting a haircut in the next 5 to 6 days.
$23, that's a lot for a haircut for you.
It is. I've upped my game.
Wow, because you are always the $12
discount, and no one could tell the difference. But no, I've upped my game. Now I get a little massage with it.
Oh, discount rich, jeez.
That includes tip.
Mine's $25 with tip.
Oh, wow.
It's a $20. It's a $20.
You think you're $2 better than me, don't you?
I know.
So if you want to start there, you could be the hair sponsor.
Where do you go to get your haircut?
I have now recently been a fan of Sport Clips. I started going there 2 years ago-ish. I had a good experience. I've had a good experience at pretty much all of them. Pretty much all of them, although I've visited most of them now in the Milwaukee area. It's usually just where I am at the time. And, that's what I do. I think I get the MVP, but I always use a coupon because I'm thrifty. I'm cheap. I use a coupon,
That's
and
good.
then after coupon, it comes out to about $23.
Okay.
So, Alan, there's your first chance. I used to go to Cost Cutters.
Yep.
I don't even want to give them the plug, but
I go to DeCarlo Salon.
that's so you.
Yeah.
To go there.
Actually, it was right next to where my office was, so it was really easy because I'd go there at my lunch hour.
Sure.
I'd walk over there, and it's right next to a Jimmy John's, which worked out really well. And it's a downtown salon. The men's cuts are cheap. I'll go on record and say, all the women that work there are extremely attractive.
Careful.
Just saying. It didn't hurt. But then my office moved a couple miles away. Now I go out of my way to go there. It's a little less frequent, but I have a stylist who I prefer.
Of course you do.
So there's her or someone else. Occasionally I will get. So it's a nice place too. Lots of it's a very.
Does your wife go there?
No. She goes to Aveda Salon, which is like it's a student place. So like where they're training these people that eventually go to places I go. So
Well,
saying.
one of the things that I like about this place is that they, as someone asked if they keep your hair records, they log into a computer, which I understand it's a systematic thing that not all places do that are chains.
They should.
But these guys do.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of that. They can say, oh, last time you got the such and such, and we used such and such trimmer, size on your sides. And I'm a big fan of that. Because you don't want to incorrectly say, yeah, they use like a 2 when you really use a 4, and next thing you know, you're
a little tighter than you were hoping. Ronald says he hopes the wifey is asleep. She might be. My guess is she is, but she knows. I've told her. These are all young.
No secrets.
No secrets. They're all young women who are not hard on the eyes, and they cut my hair, they wash my hair, they massage the head, they do the straight razor in the back of the neck, and they used to do a hot towel, but they don't do that anymore. So I'm content. I'll bring you some time.
Yeah, you'll have to treat because I can't afford that.
It's like $2 more.
I can't. That's way out of my budget.
And after so many cuts, you get one for free. And they have a free 14-day cleanup. So if you go there within 14 days, they will just take the back of the neck and the sideburns and clean it up for you. Can't argue with that.
I guess you can't. So
I always look when they wash my hair. They've got the menu, so to speak, up on the ceiling area, and I always look at. There's one that's the it's like called like the peppermint hair head rejuvenation or something, and I'm always like, and it's $5. And I'm thinking like, I should go for that sometime, and I never do. Because I think it's something I probably have to ask for.
Your scalp.
I don't know, but that's a little bit much for me.
Well, anyway, it seems like we're losing listeners. That's so weird.
This is the after show. I don't care if we lose listeners in the after show.
I'm sure Yuli's listening still.
That's right.
Seti says his hair is ridiculously long, yet shines with the brilliance of 1,000 suns.
Oh, we're happy for you.
Wow. And now is it Remo? Whoops. Remo, I was trying to make sure I could read it.
Yep.
Asked, who has the best hairstyle on tour?
Oh, that's a great question.
That really is a great question.
I mean, right now, you would almost have to say Yuli. His is the most. I'll say his is the most unique right now.
Most unique? Isn't that a word you can't put in front of there?
There's a reason I said that. It's the most unique. It's also the least unique, I guess, because it's still one of a kind. Whatever. No, I think Yuli's is. Everybody else right now is kind of more of a clean cut. Paul over the winter had his hair dyed, which a lot of people.
Yeah, he certainly got criticized for that.
Which a lot of people didn't like, and I don't care. It's off season, whatever. Even if it was on season, I guess I wouldn't really care that much. But I'm trying to think if there's anyone else who has a unique hairstyle, because Nico's is pretty down tight right now compared to what it.
Dana's can be all over the board. We got to shout out to Dana, who can be
Dana
very
can be
large,
1
and out of
inch
control.
or 6 inches. So
and then there's crazy hair like Paul Oman, who just
you don't know where the hair stops and the beard starts.
Yeah, Paul Oman, shout out, buddy.
Stokely, bingo, nailed it. Stokely with the most unique, with the unique hair, with the blue.
But was that the question? I don't think unique was the question. I thought it was best.
No, the
And
best.
I don't think those necessarily go hand in hand.
No, they don't. You're right.
Yeah, who has the best hairstyle on tour? Yeah, as they're saying, hard to tell. A lot of them do wear hats, of course. Man, I'd really have to think about.
I think, and I hate to just take the easy one, but I think maybe because I'm used to seeing it, Macbeth's looks the most fitting for him.
Okay.
Because he's got the whole outfit and everything.
How would he look with dreads?
Silly.
Well, maybe if he changed up his outfit.
Someone can Photoshop it up for us if they really want.
If he would just, get a better threads.
Well, here's what I want to see. All right.
Somebody put Nico's hair on Macbeth?
No, I was thinking Philo. Stan X Philo doing those face swap things.
There you
go. And I want to see how that goes.
That would be a good.
But yeah, I think Paul's kind of, he's not much of a hat wearer, so you always see it. It seems to be always groomed very well. So I'm going to go for males. I'm going to go with him.
Okay.
And for females, I'm a big fan of Björkis's hair. I love watching how it gets everywhere when she throws, because she doesn't like to pull it back usually.
Correct. Funny statement.
So when she throws, there's always these great pictures of her hair just everywhere.
And that's exactly what was. I overheard a conversation somewhere when following the women's card. At some point, someone had said just that. It was another female said, "Yeah, she's." Oh, it was Paige Pierce, who said, "Yeah, she doesn't pull her hair back or tie it up or anything like that." And she's like the only girl that really doesn't do that. And Paige Pierce had said, "I can't imagine throwing without, my ponytail," as she's playing with her hair, as she's saying.
Sure.
She's like, "I can't imagine not having it in a ponytail or having it, out of the way or something like that." So it was funny that, as you said, Birkus's hair goes a little bit everywhere when she's thrown. All right. Disc Golf Nerd says, is there any way you guys could film an event in the same style as live, but then upload it later when you don't have good enough cell signal to broadcast live? We absolutely could.
It would be, as I just said, it would be way easier with one camera, because with two cameras now, we are forced to manually make those cuts. And at that point, I kind of think, what's the point in that? Because if I'm already doing the editing, or you're already doing the editing, someone is, then you might as well polish it up, put out a really good version of it, so to speak, and with all that stuff. I mean, it could be done.
Yeah, in some, and I know back in 2014, Disc Golf Planet was slated to cover the Rochester Flying Disc Open. I believe it was the 30th or 40th annual Rochester Flying Disc Open, a national tour event. And I remember we were live in San Diego that weekend covering a different event, working with Legacy. And ultimately, Disc Golf Planet didn't go live, but what they did is they recorded the round, and I think they put it up relatively raw, exactly as you're saying. They basically recorded the whole thing and then just had to put it up later.
Yeah, and we could do that if we, like I said, sticking with one camera. If you're out there,
would there be an easy way to cut? There must be still an easy way to somewhat cut the show together, or cut in with additionals like lower thirds and other things that we could add. Is there not?
Oh yeah,
with one camera that's not.
Yep.
How would you see that?
I would just see it as, from my perspective, let's say you handed me a 3-hour round.
No, I meant on the fly. Could you do anything? Could you basically produce the show on the fly without?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You hand me, like, after the round, you hand me a 3-hour show. I walk up to our application Wirecast. I drop it in. It's just like a commercial.
Yeah, that's not what I meant. But go on.
I hit play, and then I can cut in lower thirds. I can put in lower thirds as I see them. There's it would be a little bit rougher than our current stuff, because I don't have any sort of idea what's coming up.
Sure.
Whereas at least with foreign communication, I do. There's no way to do two camera that way, because when I load a commercial or an asset, it's like a static. I can't play two at once. I can only play one thing at a time. So I couldn't play two things concurrently and cut back and forth between them, because once I cut away from one, cutting back, the timing is all thrown off.
Yeah, I was just trying to think if there was any way you could do it live, real time, but then we would save it all and produce it, and without using our cellular signal. I mean, I was just thinking even on site, or short of the robot machine that the other gentleman, Viradisc, used. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Because could they not have done it locally, been recording locally that entire time and producing the show, and then just uploaded it later? Because they were actually producing right there in the field.
Yeah, they could.
That's what I'm saying is, could we do something like that? And we really couldn't, because we transmit the signal to you, but I was even thinking locally, is there any way you could do it?
Yes.
So could maybe some kind of Wi-Fi system on, like
I could do it. There is an application, and it would be really strange, because basically I would have to walk around with an iPad that has, it's limited in the number of assets it can have and stuff, but it sees what the tear decks have. So whatever's closest based on Wi-Fi, which would be very difficult in a situation where the second camera is 400, 500 feet away. So I could do it with a one camera if I followed you close by, and this iPad talks to the box basically, and then it streams from the iPad. So the iPad would have to have Wi-Fi signal. So rather than coming right from the camera, the signal comes from the iPad. So I'd be walking with you doing it. Is that what you kind of mean?
No, but I still want to save it locally.
Oh, save it locally.
And not transmit to the internet.
It.
So basically, you're just going from camera to you, and having an end there, you almost need like a laptop.
Yeah, I would need a laptop. Then I could do it.
And you'd
because
need to like really cut from like sitting in a golf cart within a few hundred
sure.
feet of me.
Yes, we could do that.
Oh, anyway.
Yeah, it wouldn't work with 2-camera.
No, but it would be interesting.
But it would work. With 2-camera, we'd have to have some special expensive equipment to send wireless signals back and forth.
And all of that work wouldn't be worth compared to what we're doing.
It wouldn't.
But interesting to think about. Country Disc Golf, I know you had put out one of your first videos a few weeks ago. I'd love to. I think you wrote about your process. I'd like to see. I know I watched a few minutes of it. I'd love to know what you think in terms of where it's at. I think one of the things you maybe said was that you realize just how hard it is now. Obviously, it only gets easier, hopefully. But then again, as you get better, you try more things, and that's exactly where I'm at. I still don't feel like I'm great, but as I get a little bit better, I'm like, okay, well, now I should do this, and now I should do that to, put a little bit more pizzazz or polish on it. So it's a constant, black hole in that sense. We edit, or I really do the editing here in terms of anything post-production, and I've always used Adobe Elements Premiere. And just in the last few weeks, I have, we'll say, upgraded to just Adobe Premiere 9.0 or whatever the Creative Cloud has. I think that's 9. 6? It's either 6 or 9.
I think it's 6, CC6
Whatever.
Or something.
So that's what I've been using. Which again, there's a few things in there that are definitely not as obvious and easy as in my old, and then there's a lot more features that I may or may not ever use.
Yeah,
but it's more of an industry standard, so it makes it a lot easier.
It works better if you ever need to share the footage.
Correct.
So, a couple questions out here. Someone asked, "Have we had the big news yet?" The big news is we are broadcasting Pro Worlds. We are going to be the live broadcasters of Pro Worlds. There will still be all your favorite post round covered stuff. That they are working with Dynamic Disc very closely. There was an RFP put out for that as well. So there's that. So you guys are going to have edited footage, and we are going to be doing the live stuff just like you saw at GBO. Someone says, basically, screw good coverage. They want to see a tournament raw. I put out there on a web board, just out of curiosity, would it be worth it to people? It would basically save about, let's just say, 8 hours for us to cut. So let's say we do a live round. I record locally our live round. I always do as a backup in case anything fails with YouTube. I can always upload it after the fact, exactly how it's broadcast to me. I could, in theory, take that local coverage, which is already cut together as far as 2-camera, do a very rough edit down to, let's say the whole round is an hour. Leave a couple commercials in, a couple lower thirds, a couple assets that we have, because we want to support the sponsors that support us. So you wouldn't be getting a completely raw. But let's just say I cut it, and it might sound weird because I'm basically cutting live footage. So imagine watching a football game with all the conversation, the play-by-play, and you suddenly cut. So you might cut someone off in the middle of a sentence. But would that be worth it to people? I could get that done and uploaded probably within 2 hours after an event. Would that be worth it to people versus waiting till the next morning when they get a really good 1080p, 60 frame per second, commentated possibly version from someone like a Jomez or a CCDG? I don't know. Nobody really responded because it was in the middle of a bigger long thread. I just didn't know if anyone had any opinions on it, whether that is worthwhile or not.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting debate because obviously it rages on. The question rages on as to what do people care more about? Do they care about a little extra polish and a few extra editing details, or do they care about something that's just out incredibly quickly and may or may not be as polished or whatever? Everybody.
Yep.
It seems like timeliness is more important over quality all the time. Of course,
until you don't give them great quality, even though it was fast, and then they yell at you for that.
Sure, and we'd all love great quality and super fast. Everybody would love that. There's no doubt about it. But sometimes you sacrifice one for the other. So that's all part of that debate, I think. Someone says the quicker the upload, the more views you'll get. We already know who wins the tourney before you see the video. Yeah, most people do. Some people don't, and they get really upset when it's talked about, but you're right. Ronald says he'd rather wait for quality weight himself. And other people are saying they'd rather wait. And again, this just continues to get discussed every single weekend, and there's no clear-cut answer.
No,
I mean,
because some people would just, like I said, like myself, just want to see a 720 oversell signal. Maybe they just want to get the quick raw how it looks, and they don't care about the commentary or waiting. And then you have that argument like, let's just say I did, and it was kind of a mediocre. It was in comparison to what the other guys are putting out. It's going to look mediocre. I mean, I hands down know that. How many views am I going to get? I personally don't care, but will people want to watch that versus what the edited guys put out the next day? And I don't want to look like I'm trying to snipe views from them, because frankly, it's something we don't really care about. Like, it's nice. We care about the views. We want people to view what we have live because it is a good benchmark. But for us to put out something edited like that, you're not doing it for the sake of gaining viewers. You're doing it to appease viewers. I'm doing it to appease viewers. I'm doing it because people really want a quick version, a quick raw version as soon as possible. And if you could get that out to them within 2 to 3 hours after that round, even if it looks no better, it would look basically the exact same quality of what we broadcast at when you get live. It's not as nice as what the CCDG guys put out. Sure. It still looks, it's palatable, and it's live, but it's pushed through a cell signal. So just, Bulldog 3636 asks a good question, which haven't gotten this far yet. Says, who's doing the media day, or is anyone doing interviews with players like at Disc Golf World Tour? There will probably be stuff along those lines. You're going to see stuff at the Disc Golf Pro Tour that will answer that question, and you're also going to see some iterations of that at the World Championships. Exactly what, that hasn't been determined. Will you see nightly podcasts or wrap-up shows? Again, there's a lot of things that are in the works, and we're going to do the best we can to bring you as much coverage as we can. And I'm sure it won't all be perfect. We're just going to try our best to give you as much as we can. So we'll be working on all of those things. If the quality is mediocre, then they wait for the better coverage, some say. I just don't look at the news until I watch the vids, is what mainly Spin says. There's certain things that you just can't have ready beforehand in editing. I'd rather wait for the added touches in a quality edit rather than a thrown together product, no matter what the resolution is. What Country Disc Golf says. And I kind of think that is if it were like 2 weeks later that people were getting the video, then I think it would be, I would hands down take the time to do it. But the fact that these guys are getting this stuff out by the next morning, it makes what I was thinking of doing, or postulating, doing much less enticing. Like, yeah, I could do it. Maybe some people would like it, and maybe some people wouldn't. But is there enough demand for a quick cut of what we do versus a quick cut of what they do? I will say this: anything I would do, I would just put out all 18 holes. Yeah, I'm not going to cut it into 2 9s just because it's for the timeliness. It's a timeliness. I would just try to get it out. It would be rough. And the advantage that I have is that when we do the live stuff, we have things like scoreboards already put in there. We have that stuff, so I don't have to take the time that these guys do to make that stuff, to make it look pretty. It's already in there for me. I would literally just be going chop, 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 squeeze, render, send. Sure. So, and I might do one and just upload it privately and not show anybody, just to see how it comes out. And maybe I'll share. You should overpromise and underdeliver. That's what I'm a big. Well, that's why I'm saying that it would be private. Larry, no one knows about Larry Puckett touches on a really good point, which I think is always worth talking about. He said, I liked the little bit of talking with Macbeth during the round, but not sure if most players would want to talk. And you're exactly right, Larry. There's always a fine line as to when players want to talk, and that's during live rounds or even post-produce rounds. This weekend, there was a number of times where Paul wanted to talk or had something to say to me, or is, and we all know this. Well, no, we don't all. I'll clarify. Paul Macbeth is relatively chatty. He's very personable. I have a good relationship with him. I know others do, but I have a good relationship with him. And
I feel that there's more times than most that he just would love to share something with me, and if he wants to share it and he doesn't mind sharing it on video, he'll share it with me and I'll record it. Most of our pros are not that way, and that's not a bad thing. It's just they're more in game mode in their own way. Paul's game mode is relaxed and somewhat chatty, and people, you viewers, love that. Most of our other players aren't quite as chatty, and Doss, who, as many of you heard last week, is arguably one of the most candid, lovable, yet serious guys in all of disc golf, but he really doesn't want to talk about certain things during the round, and I will never bring them up with him. And it's not because he doesn't know or love disc golf. It's because he's got a different version of game mode, or game face. And Nate and I specifically have had these conversations over the years about when it's appropriate to talk and not talk, and to what to talk about. And I'll follow this up. We were on a backup this weekend during the final round. It's 1196 foot hole, par 5, and we're sitting there for quite some time. It was really the first backup of the round, and people were coming up and asking Macbeth for autographs. Clearly not a good idea. I just got done saying how kind and polite and friendly he is, and he signed them. But if you could say, generically speaking, would you rather or rather not sign autographs during the round, he would lean on the side of I'd rather not. Now, again, he's done it, and in the right situations, he'll continue to do it. But it's definitely not something he would prefer. And conversely, literally minutes before they teed off, someone came up and asked him for an autograph, and he's like, I'm kind of getting my practice putts in right now. And he said, no. And one would think, well, before the round would make more sense. Well, not 2 minutes before the round.
Yeah.
And he was polite about it. He was cordial about it. He was, again, a professional about it. And the guy, I hope and think, understood just that. There's a right place and a right time, and sometimes even when it's not the right place and right time, many times our pros still oblige.
Sure.
But anyways, a couple of things I observed this weekend that I thought were interesting out there on that final round. And again, we've said it a million times. That we maybe have said a million times, that you see Paul a lot working with Smashbox and Disc Golf Guy, and you may think we do or don't favor him. He works with us, so that's what makes him a regular, and so he makes himself available and accessible. And when he calls or texts me and says, "Hey, I have an idea," I'm going to oblige, because it's it's a good idea.
He's done the same to us as well.
Exactly.
And I mean, and we're not exclusive. Look what he's done with CCDG. He's done a lot of those funny videos. He does the champs versus chumps videos. He knows. He's very good with the media.
Correct. So. The only thing about post-production I don't like is when they upload a front nine or part of a tournament but never post the rest. Ouch.
Yeah.
He names a couple people, but the front nine or part of a tournament. Now, I'll say a part of a tournament if I'll be the first to say, somebody said, thanks for the women's coverage of round 2 at the Beaver State. I covered them during round 2, but I didn't cover them. I couldn't, time-wise, cover them in rounds 3 or 4. So in reference to that, our assignments is probably the best way to word it. Our assignments may shift and change throughout. I may cover... The only reason I got the rest of the women's round during 4th round is because I covered the men's round, and then I hustled over because I wanted to go see what was going on in the women, and I happened to film it. So, depending on the situation. Now, if somebody only puts up 9 holes and then leaves you hanging on 9 holes, well, that just sucks.
That's a problem.
I'd feel bad for anyone that happened to. But just so you know, there's times, you may cover the Masters one round and then not see them the rest of the weekend because maybe your obligations changed or you had arrangements or whatever. For me, I personally, when I can, I like to spread the love around, and that's why I love covering the women and I like covering the men. But I can't always guarantee it's going to be one or the other at any given event.
Yeah.
So,
right on.
Somebody says CCDG and Disc Golf Guy have different, completely different style of coverage. Just saying, why not try it out? The internet coverage is consistently changing.
I know. I just read that. That's why I gave the CCDG.
What was he referring to, though? Just
I don't know.
Why not try it out? I don't know what that means. What it is. Earlier he said CCDG killed it for sure, but you guys should try it for sure. So he's definitely referencing something else that I must have to scroll up for. We're sorry.
I think he's talking about doing more of a live feel for recorded coverage.
Now, and I guess anyone else seen
it would basically be commentary on the fly, which is tough, obviously, because you're right there. But
I'd like to know exactly what your this weekend had a bunch of weird mistakes. I don't know exactly what he's referencing in terms of trying something out. Try live rough cut, yes. Now, if you're meaning post-production or if you're meaning live post-production.
No, live post-production, basically.
Okay.
So kind of like how you did it way back when, where you literally commentated while you filmed.
Yeah, but that was still semi-polished and edited.
Correct, but the commentary was on the fly, and I think
Correct.
that's more so what he's thinking, because that gives it that's a totally different feel than what CCDG does. You know, they come back with that way more West Coast relaxed, like right on type feel, as opposed to the excitement that's there and the electricity of when you're actually viewing it, like literally when you're watching it for the first time, as opposed to when you've probably edited for 4, 5, 6 hours and now have to sit down and record a commentary track for it.
I wish the lead cards could be wired. We do too. If there was a magic world, and that wouldn't even solve all of our problems. But yeah, if they could all be wired. I'm sorry. I'm thinking wired as in hardwired for us to give you clearer footage. You're saying wired in terms of mic'd.
I think audioed.
Yeah. I don't know if that's such a good idea.
And
it would be entertaining.
It
wouldn't be appropriate.
And I've told you this before. When we're live and we're walking down, we have maybe there's an instance where we have to walk down the fairway. Either it's getting late in the round and we don't want to cut away. I'm always a big fan of you trying to stick a mic
in their faces,
unassumingly into a group when they're chatting. Or when, they're sitting there at a backup and Big Germ's sitting there playing hacky sack with a couple guys and just chatting, like, get that mic in there. Let's kind of hear what they're talking about.
And I'll be the first to admit, I've been there in those situations, and sometimes those aren't live appropriate.
I know.
Those are very much. I've heard,
yes,
both on the men's and women's sides.
Yep.
I've heard conversations that certainly are not meant to be public for the rest of the world.
Yep.
So that is and isn't always appropriate. Ronald asks, who decides who films what card each round? That's a great question, and every event is different. This last weekend, we were at Beaver State Fling, and through a contract with the PDGA, they had acquired my services, the Disc Golf Guy vlog services, but in the same breath, Jeff and Jeff, who run the tournament, have a very, I'll say, open policy about filming there. And again, every event is different. I'll use Masters Cup. Literally every event is a little bit different. Jeff and Jeff at Beaver State have a very, I'll say, liberal and open policy in terms of whoever wants to come film kind of sort of can and go wherever you want and do whatever you want. That's not true at almost every other event, at least large event.
Yeah.
That's just simply not true. Central Coast had a huge, did I say gaggle? Bunch of bags of salt.
They're a bunch of bags of salt.
Had a huge, had a plethora of people there. Maybe there you go. Had a plethora of people there. And I'll say they just kind of went out and stated, I don't want to say claimed, they stated where they were going to be filming. And at a certain point, I didn't want to double up the efforts by being on the same holes as they were, or the same cards as they were. And I just kind of went other places. And I had sent a message to Ian on Saturday night saying, well, I covered fifth card on Saturday, and Sunday I said, well, I'm going to cover second card. And he's like, okay, good to know. And they still had someone on second card, but maybe not the crew that they would have if I wasn't there. Every event is different, and you're going to see that change in the sense that I think you're going to see it get regulated and locked down, I guess is a better way to put it, or regulated. You're going to see restrictions and regulations continue to grow because of live and because of recorded rounds. And that has to do with sponsorship. That has to do with monetization. That has to do with a lot of different politics. And we already know by the outpouring that people are going to say, oh, anybody should be able to go do whatever they want and get whatever they want. That's just not the reality. And that goes for everybody. That goes for me recording. That's going to go for Central Coast. That's going to go for the Disc Guy and Pavu and all these amazing entities.
Yep.
There's just going to be more Spin TV. There's going to be more rules and regulations put in place. And ultimately, it's to help reduce chaos is what it's there for. It's not to pit anyone against someone else or to play favorites or do anything like that. It's just to reduce the chaos is what it's going to continue to happen. Just think 5 years ago, we didn't have this problem. And now we've got people, on the second card, there were 3 cameras. There was someone from Central Coast, another gentleman, I can't think of his name now, sorry, and myself. And even there, I felt like, all right, this feels kind of weird. And then Joe, my other guy, was on the catch. We had 4 cameras on that second card.
I'll say, not that they need it, but in defense of Central Coast doing that could be a CYA, just a coverage in case something happens.
And that's
to
what
you.
I heard them say is, well, what if Macbeth?
Or they may just want all that footage. Like, what if Macbeth gets an ace?
Sure.
And
they want their own version.
And they want their own version of it because then coming to you and saying like, oh, Terry, odds are, you're not going to share that footage until you get it up there. Like, would you share it in the future? Sure, possibly, but not until you were to get that out there. Just like you wouldn't expect them to share the Philo one.
Sure.
It just makes sense, and these, like I said, thankfully everyone's friendly with each other. There's really not a lot of competition. It's just that if I were them and I had the resources they did for that particular shoot, awesome. I want as much footage as I can get for future references. Now, one of the things that they did this event, and you had said that they had done it at the Masters Cup, even though I never saw it, was the tournament recaps.
Sure.
Which I watched and enjoyed. But I'm just looking at the footage, or I'm looking at the numbers, and it looks like, one of their rounds right now is sitting at like between 11 and 14,000 views for a particular round. The tournament coverage is sitting about 2,000 views, 2,300. So
look at their 2 tournament central views as of this very minute are literally 1 view apart.
Yeah, 2367, 2366.
That's crazy.
That's something that they're going to have to look at and say, is this worth our extra time if we're only getting this amount of views versus the 11,000 views? And I know this is something that the Pro Tour wants to do. They want to do kind of a wrap-up video,
and they've been doing exactly that. They've been having these recaps.
Yep.
And
so I'm just saying, I'll be curious to know what the temperature is out for the people as far as these wrap-up videos go. Are they going to be a success? We've seen Spin TV do them. We've
seen the Disc Golf Guy at
Yep.
When we were Smashbox and the Disc Golf Guy or whatever at Memorial this year. We had a highlight reel that was very artistic, very well put together, and it received a few thousand views. We'll say 10,000 or so views compared to all the other coverage that was being put out that we had. And it was we got absolutely blown away. So it's all about your audience, and there's a real fine line as to who you're trying to appease. We have sponsor obligations, you have event obligations, you have PDGA obligations, and then you have viewer obligations. And it's funny to see so many of us, and I'll put us all collectively together, that are working so hard for what's usually free to almost everyone that views it, and taking in that feedback and input, and that's how we grow and get better. But yet, sometimes we get blasted or accolades, for any given effort that's put forth.
Yep.
Larry just talks, good night, Yuli. Thanks for chiming in. Thanks for being here tonight. Have a good night. Larry chimes in saying he watched footage from Central Coast and from me, and he preferred one over the other. Again, it's different strokes for different folks. I don't think any of us can take any one thing as a compliment, because there could be a 50-50 line drawn, or, it's different styles and different objectives is really what it comes down to.
Completely.
And I feel like we talk about this a lot, but
We do.
It comes up every weekend. Because somebody will say, well, I like this coverage, but I didn't like this, or I like this, but I hated the timeliness of it. Again, there's trade-offs every different way you look at it.
Yeah, Larry says he doesn't like seeing wrap-up videos before the round is out,
Which
makes sense.
no, it does, but
some people don't maybe want to watch a whole round, and they just want to see the wrap-up video.
I'll further the point. What I really think is the situation there, and this is just speculation. I'm friends with those guys. I think they have all their editing to do, and of course, it takes way longer to put the round footage together. I believe Corey, or one of their main guys, that's his sole focus, is that wrap-up round or that wrap-up highlight thing. So you've got one or two guys pounding away on a much more laborious, is that a term?
Laborious.
Yeah, thanks. Laborious project, and then you've got one guy that's like, well, I can hammer this out in 3 hours, and it's going to take these guys 6 hours. Should he really wait? Does it matter? I mean, you don't have to click on it.
Yeah,
he doesn't give you any spoilers. It just says Tournament Central on it.
Yep. Yeah, you don't have any spoilers, and it's just there are people who maybe just want the highlights, and that's what they're catering to. They're catering to a larger majority, a larger swath of people that just want highlights versus people who want both. And they're going to get the other stuff out. It's just a matter of some people are like, I don't have to watch the whole round. I can get a summary of what happens. So.
Very interesting. Ronald asks if I have a new camera. I do not. I would love a 60 frame per second camera. It's kind of on the wish list, but it's not on the needs list. I would like one. So we've talked about it briefly before, but Joe has my other guy for these recent video blogs in the last few months. He's got an older Canon, but it does shoot up to 60 frames per second. My Canon's only a couple years old. It's the XA10. And it only shoots 30 frames per second. And they're both Canons. The colors are just a tad off of one another. We tried to match them up a little better this weekend. And it's great that he's got that, and he's got a few more features and things that he can do with his. Again, is it a necessity on my end? No. Everybody would always like a newer, better camera.
Of course. And
we have a Smashbox camera, which is a JVC, which has almost a very different color and feel and look to it. We can try and match it up as best as we can, but it's almost too much camera, I feel like, for what I'm trying to do more often than not when we're not live. So I don't know that that's necessarily...
No, I think that would be perfect for what you want to do live.
Maybe.
Or not live, but after the fact.
Country Disc Golf says, I could see the wrap-up videos coming into play in the future when disc golf is featured on national sports TV. Too early to abandon them. I mean, I think it's great that they're doing them.
I would never say abandon them. I mean, if you have the cycles to do it.
And what I think is funny is, I feel like they're a little bit more of the style that I originally started with before I went by hole coverage.
I know you used to do it was a disc
highlight
golf guy.
Yeah, my disc golf guy video blogs. If you go check the first 100 or so, it was highlights, not necessarily in the same order they do them, but it was highlights of players. And then just me doing an interview at the end or talking about it. And then eventually it was highlights with maybe some commentary or an interview behind it or whatever. But it was pretty much highlights, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And so this Tournament Central kind of has that look and feel to it, except for they commentate during it. And they're very informative, so they're good stuff. Yes, Corey is doing the Tourney Central video himself. Spoke to him after the round. CCDG has a lot of guys, at least at BSF they did. Is it you three guys alone? Funny you ask that. Is it us three? More often than not,
I'll say I'm not involved in the edited covers. When
At
Terry
all.
goes to cover Beaver State, I'm not involved at all.
You don't even know what state I'm in half the time.
I mean,
Sometimes
usually
you do.
no.
You sometimes do.
But so I'm not involved. So it's really only two guys. It's Terry and Joe.
That's it. There's two of us. And so a lot of people love to make these comparisons, good or bad or whatever, about me and Central Coast. There's no comparison. They have anywhere from 3 to 6 to 10 guys on any given weekend doing the massive amount of effort that they're doing. And I think it's awesome. I just know that I'm usually, for the many years I was one guy, and this year for a number of projects I've had two guys. That's it.
Yep. But it's still usually, no, actually I take that back. I'm not even going to say that. Yeah.
And when we go to live, we double and we go to 4 guys.
Woo!
So and it includes Johnny and one other amateur cameraman.
Yep.
So very, very, very different mentality and the way we go about it. So for sure. All right. I think we've beat that to that.
We've exhausted media for
Yet
a while.
again.
Yep.
Until next week.
And we'll talk about it.
We talk about it next time.
No, maybe 2 weeks when we talk about after the Pro Tour what happens and
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So go out if you didn't catch it already. Go out, watch the women's round. A lot of people talk about growing the sport and women. I always say if you want more women to play, watch their video and share it with other women who may watch it, and other women can hopefully get inspired or excited about playing golf. I think that's.
Did you
one
put
way
that
to
up
do it.
on the women's site that you have, the YouTube
Not yet.
the disc golf girl?
No, I didn't put it there yet, but it's on the Disc Golf Guys page. So go out and take a look. The women's round is in fact up.
You should put it there as well.
I will.
Like now.
And that's 1 hour. It's 1 hour long. It's all 18 holes, and it features Paige Pierce, Katrina Allen, Paige Bjerkes, and Zoe Andyke. And then round 3 with the men are up when Macbeth was on the 5th card. Somebody else made the comment and said only Paul Macbeth would be on the 5th card and still get coverage. and I said, Paul Macbeth, only player to get video coverage even when he's on the 5th card. And I simply said, not true. I was covering Ray Johnson, Dustin Keegan, and Tomas, and Macbeth just so happened to show up. Also, Central Coast had a ton of people out there, and I had no idea where they were or weren't going to cover, so I just opted to head to the 5th card, which I didn't know if they would be there or not. And I think they still had a guy there, so it was good. And then Paul Macbeth shot the hottest round, and I'm not saying it was a Disc Golf Guy video blog bump, but
it wasn't. Someone asked if we're doing wrap-up shows during Maple Hill. We haven't decided that yet. We're going to do Terry and I fly out Monday night to Maple Hill, and so which means we'll have Tuesday to get everything prepped. We'll for sure do our normal Tuesday show, and then we'll kind of play it by ear depending on what's going on as far as whether we're going to do wrap-up shows,
internet signal, how good things are going.
Yeah,
there's a lot of factors, how crazy the nights are and who's there and who's around, if we have a good spot to do it from.
Yep, and I've said before, I would be fine without doing them. I wouldn't mind doing one, maybe on Friday night or maybe one on Saturday night because it's a Sunday event and Sunday. But part of me kind of wants to just have fun at night. So we'll see. And I say that now, but then I'm going to come up and be like, oh, we really should do it, So, but as of right now, we have no plans one way or the other.
Yeah, we'll see how things shake out. I'm not opposed to doing it, assuming we can get everything set, get a studio set, and get really comfortable within our position. And then, I could see bringing in a few of our top players and have a few conversations each night. No one's ever accused me of being short on words, so we'll see how that goes and stuff. All right, we're going to wrap things up almost exactly at 1 a.m. Central Time. It's been a pretty crazy, not so crazy night. Crazy? Not so crazy.
Not so crazy.
Not so crazy. But it has been fun. We appreciate you guys all chiming in. I appreciate all the love. Going to places like the Beaver State Fling and people saying they watch all the videos, they watch them live, they watch them recorded, they watch our podcast, they hate our whatever. I get all sorts of feedback. They say we're the best disc golf podcast out there, number one. I've heard them say, not me. I've heard them say that. So we can appreciate that all the love and support we get. So this has been the after show for podcast number 92. Next week, we're going to bring you a show, as Johnny V just mentioned, straight from Maple Hill on Tuesday night, just a week away from now. We're looking forward to a great, exciting week and the opening of the Pro Tour. Everyone's geared up for it, including us.
I'm excited.
So it should be a lot of fun. So for Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, we love all you Smashies. This has been the after show. We'll see you guys next week from Maple Hill when you step inside the Smash Box.